Evening and welcome to Also Fumar Takes. This is our 272nd take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show, a king-size show, worthy of only the finest of gentlemen, but I had to end up with this guy. No, just kidding. Jokes all around. Just kidding. We're going to get to formal introductions of our guests of honor tonight. And he is a guest of honor because he's one of my nearest and dearest and closest friends and trusted partners. And everybody knows who that is and won't bear the lead. But guess what? We have to thank the show that thank the people that make this show possible anyway. And that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is, yes, count it up, is sponsored by Drew Estate. Thanks again, Drew Estate. Drew Estate is welcoming back, debuting the Liga Privada Unico Porchetta, a culinary-inspired cigar exclusively for Casa de Monte Cristo. In an unparalleled mashup of culinary artistry and cigar craftsmanship, Drew Estate proudly introduces the Liga Privada Unico Porchetta. Yes! Drawing inspiration from the traditional Italian roasted pork dish known for its rich layers and savory seasonings, this cigar is meticulously crafted to evoke a similar complexity in its flavor profile. Liga Privada Porchetta is exclusively available at the distinguished Casa de Monte Cristo brick-and-mortar locations. Jonathan Drew, founder and president of Drew Estate, expressing his excitement about the new global offices of Drew Estate, proclaims Porchetta is a meaty, in-your-face, turbulent journey of flavor and aroma. It's hard-hitting yet smooth and meat-loving, calculated at the all-time same time. Good, kind of like a Larry Holmes jab to the dome. It's not meant to knock you out, but damn, that was the thing about Holmes in his heyday. He could literally knock you out with just a couple of jabs. Nobody should get knocked out with a jab. Really, this Porchetta is like a miniature Larry Holmes. My dad was a Larry Holmes fan, for the record, says Jonathan Drew. That's quite the description for Jonathan Drew, founder and president of Drew Estate. So check out Casa de Monte Cristo locations, and you can own and smoke your very own Liga Privada Unico Porchetta yourself. And thanks, Drew Estate, for an amazing new release to the market. And welcome, everyone. Without further ado, let's get to introductions of the guests of honor tonight. Tonight's guest is sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living United. Mr. William Cooper of Cigar Coop. Coop, how you doing tonight?
What's up, Bear? I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and always great being on LO Fumar Takes.
Glad to have you, man. I'm so excited for you to agree to do the show. Man, that's quite the quote from our good friend Jonathan Drew Estate. You know, I mean, the Larry Holmes connection to the Porchetta. I mean, he's drawing on all sorts of metaphors here, man. This is fucking crazy.
Listen, I actually read that quote on KMA Talk Radio yesterday with Alex Tavella, who's a boxing guy like me. We had a lot of fun with that. That has to rank as one of the all-time Jonathan Drew quotes in a press release.
Yeah, it's up there, man. Like you almost like, man, if he had thrown in a chess metaphor too, then Alex wouldn't have been able to get through the read without salivating.
Right,
like,
right.
Happened?
But I am a big Larry Holmes fan. He probably is one of my all-time favorite boxers. So,
sure.
Yeah, really, I mean, he was the heavyweight champion. Really, I saw some of Ali, but Holmes was the champion, in my teen years. So, I was always a big fan of his.
Man, dude, you really, I mean, with the exception of maybe like the 30s and 40s, when you got like, gosh, man. So, I mean, just something like Cinderella Man, and of course, like Max Baer, and like all those guys. Like, oh gosh, maybe I guess you could throw in like Jake LaMotta too. Like, I don't know. Like you got to see some of the best boxing, I think, in history. I mean, you caught some of Ali, Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you missed out on Sonny Liston, who was just. I mean,
he was. Yeah, he was before me, obviously, before I was born.
Did you ever see Hurricane Carter? The box? No, you didn't. There's no way.
No, I did not see Hurricane Carter box.
Oh man, I would have loved to.
I mean, the two guys I really three boxers. It was Holmes, Roberto Duran, and Thomas Hearns.
Damn.
So those were my three that I grew up with in the 80s, and I rooted for them. Yeah, I mean, and Hearns broke my heart so many times. Duran, it was interesting. I rooted for Leonard in the first Duran fight, but I didn't like the way Leonard behaved in that second fight. I thought he was taunting Duran a lot, and I just became a Duran fan after that. I
Hmm.
did get to see Duran in Madison Square Garden win the junior middleweight title
In
a
the
few years later,
MSG.
which was a big throw.
Oh shit.
Yeah, in MSG. Yeah, I was way up in the blue seats, but it was a great to see him. I mean, that was a if you watch the movie Hands of Stone movie,
Yeah.
that's the end of the movie when he wins the title. That's the
Yeah.
fight I was at. It was a big comeback fight
Oh
for him. Yeah.
shit. No
Yeah.
kidding,
That
man.
was the
That's
Davey
crazy.
Moore fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those so I really got to see a lot of great boxers then, and the sport unfortunately is fragmented and broken, but it's not what it was. Yeah,
Do you think like most people do that the reason that boxing is broken is just that because UFC is just so prominent and popular?
I think boxing fragmented itself too much. I don't think it has anything to do with UFC. So I think it was when I was growing up, there were two champions, the WBC and the WBA, and
Hmm.
it meant something to go for those championships. Then it really started fragmenting to 4, 5, 6, and then it got to a point where really getting a title shot doesn't mean much anymore. And I think that affected a lot of people, and that's why I think they went to UFC because they have much more of a notion of a championship. I think that really is a big issue. What happened? Boxing killed itself with the fragmentation.
Yeah. Well, it's just like I remember. I think you hate this movie, but like I just remember in Million Dollar Baby, Clint Eastwood.
I love that movie. I disagree. I do like that
Oh,
movie.
okay. No, God, I'm thinking of someone else that they hated it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
like I just remember when he was like, she was like, "Oh, it's a championship." He's like, "He's a European champion. Why would you fight him? Like, there's nothing to win.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
has everything to win and nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose."
right.
So,
Hmm.
so
Yep, yep. But if you watch a WWE, right, they broke up into Raw and SmackDown. Two are good. Two is very good. It works. 3, 4, 5 doesn't work. It's just it's just a complete cluster now. So it's kind of, and I think that really hurt the sport. And I think the other thing is the pay-per-view priced it out for a lot of people.
and
I
again,
think
it's
that was
gotten
the other problem.
ridiculous. It's gotten
Yeah,
ridiculous, man.
yeah. I think it priced it out. So
I,
it's
the guy I
unfortunate.
loved, the guy I loved watching fight. You know, I mean, he pales in comparison. I mean, he's an all time. I don't know if I'll let you be the deciding factor. I don't know if he's an all time great, but he was a hell of a fighter. And man, when he was in his like youth, man, he had some lightning quick hands. Bernard Hopkins, dude, that guy could
Oh
freaking
man, Bernard
punch.
Hopkins. Yeah, he really. Yeah, he. I remember when they unified the middleweight title. He was the older guy, and he kind of came out. He kind of came and surprised everyone when he unified the title. Bernard Hopkins is a Philly guy, so yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Man, don't even know how we got on this boxing. Oh yeah, Jonathan Drew got us on
Oh,
this boxing match.
Jonathan Drew and the Larry Holmes thing.
The Larry Holmes metaphor. Smoke some
Oh,
porchetta, guys.
and with a Liga Chupada Porchetta, yeah.
Yeah, Liga Privada, Unico Porchetta. Available at Costa de Monte Cristo, everybody. So um it's like Joe Grow is partnering up with some of his old partners at Drew Estate to make some magic happen, including some Larry Holmes metaphors. All right, man. So we'll on to official business coop. We got to smoke something tonight, right? We got to smoke something.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So, in honor of your return to Los Fumar Takes, we gotta do, I figured, what the hell, man? You only live once, so might as well just go ahead and do it. Uh, so I've got some Gordos for you to pick from, man. Here we go. You
There we
ready?
go. Hmm.
So I've got the Crux Bull and Bear Marblehead Gordo.
Uh-huh.
I've got the Diesel Esteli Puro Gordo. You know how much I feel about the Toro. This is the Gordo. And then,
Right.
of course, I've got here's one for you. Got the Room 101, the Big Payback Garagwan. That is the
Okay.
70, by the way. Just FYI. Just for you, sir. Now here's a little
Yeah.
gem. Here's a
Mhm.
little gem for you. Now it's got the Aganorsa label, so it's got some age to it, but this is right when they changed the labeling to Aganorsa. So this is the Selection Reserve, Casa Fernandez Miami Reserve, the Titan from Aganorsa Leaf. You can almost see the
Oh, wow.
yellow, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Got a little bit of age to it. So
All right. I was almost gonna go lean in and do the 70 with you, but I think you should do that Aganorsa Leaf
okay.
Titan.
All right, cool.
I
Let's
think you
do
should
it.
definitely, yeah, you should definitely do that one. Little preview. Like today, you might have saw I reviewed the Asylum 9x90,
Holy shit, man.
and
How many hours? How many like to you were into hour four,
four
right?
4 hours and 22 minutes. 4 hours and 22 minutes.
4 hours and 22 minutes.
The
Shit, what
the
the fuck?
Aganorsa 10x100 probably will be up next weekend. I'm gonna be smoking it. I can't. The problem is I have to get those out of my humidor. They're too big to keep in there, right? So
Yes.
normally I try. These went to a bare minimum. I kind of bumped these up for a reason, just because when I got them, I didn't want to. They're just too big to keep in the humidor. So and there's too much risk of damage and in the coffins and stuff. So the Aganorsa is going to be reviewed. I'm probably going to smoke it Friday, and the review will probably be up by Sunday. So
I can't wait to
yeah,
hear that one.
yeah.
I said sarcastically.
No,
I
but
just
I'm going.
I
Yeah,
can't do it, man. I just
yeah.
can't. I that's too big. It's just too nuts. That's crazy.
I'm not going Gordo tonight. I think I had a bad experience with a cigar today. I'm not gonna go any further with that, but I am gonna smoke the Perdomo 30th Maduro.
Oh, nice.
So I did smoke the sun grown on Thursday night. I smoked the sun grown.
Okay.
Very good. I haven't smoked Connecticut yet. I have smoked the Maduro, and I've already bought a box.
Shit. Okay.
I've already bought a box of these. They're that good. Yeah.
Pull the Aaron Nielsen. I got you, bro. I got you.
Well, I smoked it before I bought the box. So, yeah.
Fair.
So,
That's fair. That's the Ben Lee.
so this
That's
is yeah. I got some. I managed to because I hadn't smoked this cigar. I know you got a chance to smoke it when you had Nicholas on, but I did see
yeah.
Nicholas in Miami, and he gave me something to smoke. So, I'm kind of going. I wanted to kind of smoke one of each on different shows. So, the Connecticut out will be the third one I smoke. So, but the Maduro is really good.
Nice.
So.
Well, I know
I'm
you like
excited.
I know you like Perdomo Maduros, so I know that you gravitate toward them. So
Yeah, but I'll tell you that Sungrown was really good. It was a little spicier than I thought it was going to be, right? But that's not a knock. I mean, the spices and the flavors of that thing, it's a pretty complex smoke.
yeah,
Is what I'll tell you. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I smoke too. Yeah,
So yeah,
it's got
yeah.
it's got some pop, man. It's
It's got
interesting.
some pop. And looks. I like Perdomo Maduro, but Sungrown is kind of their bread and butter.
Yeah,
So that's why I went with that one. Was the first one I smoked. The Connecticut I just want to do on a clean palate. When I smoked that one. So that's why I've been holding off on the Connecticut's. But what happened is I got some from Nicholas and I bought a small amount and then I bought a box yesterday. So I ordered a box yesterday.
nice, man. Good for you.
So, yep.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, I dig the 30th anniversary, man. It's a stellar cigar.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
they outdid themselves.
They did everything the right way with this cigar. So I'm hearing the retailers are doing very well with this cigar too. The ones who have it. So
yeah, good stuff, man.
yeah. But this is just beautiful cigar, yeah.
Cool. So
yep.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say this won't be on the Coop list because it did come out past the deadline.
Yes.
So
It's
you won't see it on the Coop list. Yeah, you won't see it on the Coop list. You probably won't see it reviewed till early next year, just because we're gonna start the countdown pretty soon. So
and it's eligible for 24 though. Just
absolutely, and 25 it will be eligible for too.
early eligibility.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's jump into tonight's major point, Coop.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight's major point is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Phoebe Cousins, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So tonight's major point. So everyone's wondering, like, why are you here? Why did I bring you back for the umpteenth time? And it's not umpteenth, by the way. You're still under 10 appearances.
Right.
In 6 years, that's not bad. It's not bad.
No, I mean it's good. It's good. I appreciate it.
So, but I'm bringing you back to talk about a little bit of, I just had, we just had celebrated 6 years of Ellis Fumar takes last week.
Yep.
So we're on 272 takes. How many episodes of Primetime are you up to?
We just did 288 on Thursday.
288.
Yeah, which is about makes sense. I think we started primetime about 4 or 5 months before you did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about the same pace we've been at.
So 288 plus 272. How many special editions?
We have the 150 show coming up, so we did 149.
That's right. How many Jukebox?
Tomorrow we air episode 114.
And how many roundtables?
The 13th also airs tomorrow after Jukebox. So roundtable has been a little bit of a schedule is a tougher scheduling thing because we have a lot of schedules we have to juggle. So so we're doing that 13th one tomorrow.
Well, certainly not like a milestone of late, but I mean it's still a pretty good one, dude. 835 total episodes,
Including El Oso.
including El Oso.
Yeah, that's a pretty, like I said, this coalition we have, and Ben's done, many video reviews. I want to say he's done about 40 or 50. So this coalition has, we are at no shortage of producing content. And we have some other projects, as you and I have been talking about, probably for next year. So yeah, we are at no shortage of producing content. There's content every week on one of the coalition networks.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man. Like 835 times we've sat around, talked about cigars, talked to people, had great conversations. And that was kind of the point that I wanted. I know it was kind of impromptu, and again, it's really not like this like incredible milestone. It's like not 1,000. I probably should have saved it for 1,000, but I thought it was a good time, just in general, after the 6th anniversary.
We should do something at 1,000. No, I think we should. It's a big thing when that happens.
Oh yeah,
the coalition 1,000. Yeah.
So I
we'll
think
have to track that.
I think the point I'm trying to make here is like I wanted to look back at some of the special moments and just our personal memories. Like we're not gonna roll any feedback. Like we're not gonna roll any like old footage or anything like that. No one wants to see. No one wants me to see us fumbling around the pool to do my 16th take with Erica Tormson at the pool at the Casa de Campo and on the Davidoff trip. So that was
right.
That was fun. Good audio though. Thanks to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so wanted to kind of go back and look at our personal recollections of some of our most favorite episodes, takes for some of our shows. So I mean I wanted to take it back to Cigar Coop Primetime, which is obviously the show that you started prior to my joining the team. This is you and Aaron Limas. So just give us a little brief history of when it started, why, and how Aaron and you came to be as a team for Primetime.
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks know I was with another podcast. We were partnered. They were part of Cigar Coop, Stogie Geeks. At the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, a decision was made to split. That was done for both business reasons and creative reasons. There were different directions we wanted to take. I wanted to take the show and the website. Then there was about a 4-month hiatus where I didn't have a podcast, and the first thing I had to do was find a host. And I had actually done some. Aaron had been on Stogie Geeks a few times. We had done. Do you remember like Brandon Luna's Calypso?
Yeah.
What was it? The club? Yeah, that's where we first met actually. With Brandon Luna.
Yeah.
And I always thought Aaron really had a good approach to I think me and him think a lot alike, even though we may think differently in terms of cigars. I think we have a lot in common. So I asked Aaron to come on board, and he originally was going to be on 2 weeks on, 1 week off. And after about 6 or 7 weeks, he's like, I want to be on every week. I had a very different vision and I think I've talked about this, for the primetime show. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to model it after like sports radio, like the Mike and Mike, Mike and the Mad Dog, kind of have that where people would tune in on Thursday night, and they know that they can hear, they'll hear a great guest, and they'll hear if there's a big topic in the news, they'll hear about it as well, which is the deliberation segment. So that was my vision. The other thing is I deliberately, and this may not make a lot of people happy, I deliberately did not want to recreate a cigar lounge on my show. So you know how you hear people, hey, we want to recreate the cigar lounge experience. That's great. I don't have a problem with it. But a
Yeah.
lot of shows were doing that.
Well, even the
So
show, like the show, the Lounge Experience, did that for a bit. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I really liked
I mean,
that style. Yeah.
they do, but even like KMA does it. There were a lot of these. No, there's nothing. It's a great style. Again, I was kind of going through at the time Fred Rui's book, Be the Lime. How can I be the lime? And I'm like, well, everyone's like wanting to create a lounge experience. What if I don't recreate the lounge experience? And what if I create this kind of like sports radio model, where like I said, we're harder hitting. We ask the tough questions. We bring the best guests on, and that's how this was born. That was how this vision was born. We did not want to recreate Stogie Geeks by any means, and debuted on April 13th, 2017. Casey Hogan was the first guest because Aaron and I had given Crux Cigars #1 cigar of the year before.
Nice. That's why I had Crux cigar picked, by the way, because it was the first take. So
No, I did. I was the 70 made it tough, and then when you brought that Aganorsa, I'm like, you got to smoke that one. Because that was the heyday of Aganorsa. That was the heyday of Aganorsa, that cigar.
This is smoking good, man. This is smoking real good.
This Perdomo, the sweetness off this is unbelievable. Nice. Not overly sweet, but really good. The sweetness comes out really good.
Yeah, they have this. The Maduro. Well, I always say this. The Maduro is probably my least favorite Perdomos. Typically, in most lines, there is this kind of nice decadence that kind of rings through with it, and that's probably, honestly, for my personal palate, that's probably why it's my least favorite of the three. Like, I love the sweetness that I get out of most Connecticut's, particularly that double age, that 12-year double age.
Mm-hmm.
The sun grown has the perfect amount of bite, like the way that it meshes with the bourbon barrel aging. Like in all their blends, like the sun-grown wrapper really just kind of hits my palate, right, for the most part. And then, but yeah, and then the Maduro has this almost this deep decadence, like especially like when you I go back to the double age line all the time when I'm talking about like Perdomo, even though that's not like their flagship, but that's like how I describe how Perdomo's tobaccos work. So like on the retro of the Connecticut, which I absolutely love, you get all those bourbon notes, you get that vanilla, you get that maple, that wood, that dark oak. It just like singes the nostrils a little bit. The Maduro by contrast delivers that experience on the palate. And it's just, for me, it's, that sweetness is just, it's great. But I just like the other two better, if that makes sense. Like, it's not a bad experience at all. It's very good. But for me, like on my personal palate, I like the nuance of their Connecticut. I like the bite of the sun grown, and that decadence is good. Now, if I had them throughout a day, like that's a pretty good day experience if you kind of smoke through the day that way. But Coop, you're muted, buddy. I remember my first beer.
Oh, I did. It's a rookie move. I was gonna say, the 10th anniversary Maduro was a monster for them. Mm-hmm. But the sun-grown kind of is the one that gets forgotten about in that 10th anniversary line because you have champagne. And Bear, I'm telling you, age those sun-growns. 10th anniversary sun-growns. They're amazing. Yeah. They're amazingly aged. It may be one of the best Perdomo cigars to age.
Yeah, I've got a box put away, so that makes perfect sense. I haven't cracked
the red label, right? The red label.
Red label, yeah.
Yeah, it's a surprise. I mean, it's a surprise because like Perdomo cigars, like I said, they're always ready to smoke and everything. That's one thing as the way, but that one just really ages well.
Yeah,
to me.
Nick would never let me let this down, but he was like, it was on the cusp. It was on the cusp of breaking into my top 10 one year. So You'll hate hearing that, but
you're gonna hear about that.
I have 2 boxes put away. I mean, I went through a box and a half that year that it came out. Man, it was fucking good.
Yeah,
fucking amazing.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, so that's a little bit of the brief history. We kind of just went on this little bit of a diatribe with Perdomo and stuff.
Yep.
But let's talk about Primetime. So again, this is the Primetime show. This is the one you host with Aaron Loomis of Developing Palates. So I sent you some categories, and I changed up the category because I didn't want to go like the same categories in every show. I didn't want to be all boring, so I
Yeah.
wanted to be all linear. So let's talk about primetime. What was the biggest surprise? And this is open ended, like there isn't a precise way to define surprise. So I left it up to you. What's the biggest surprise show that you had during Cigar Coop primetime?
You know what's surprisingly, I hate answering it this way, but 287. I know it's a recent show. Arnold Seraphin. I knew we met Arnold at the trade show.
Mhm.
I've seen Arnold on your show. I did not expect to make a connection to Arnold like I did on that show. Where I basically found my my twin ego in this guy. For his love of nostalgia, his love of the cigar industry, the love of storytelling. I was really, really surprised. Again, I had met him, so I knew I was going to have a good show. I just didn't expect that to happen. So that's one that was very recent. That again, I didn't see that one coming.
Sure.
But I kind of came out of that show. I'm like, I want to hang out with this guy. I want to like go into his store and I want to see his store. Like I said, I always knew he was a good guy. I like his cigars, but man, it was a really kindred kindred connection I made with him that night, for sure. And I hope he felt the same way. At least, I hope he enjoyed the show, obviously. So that was one that was a surprise to me, recently.
Mhm.
Uh, One I think that if we go a little further, you want me to go further back into some,
It's dude,
right?
it's your show, man. So yeah, I mean,
Mm,
where do you find the surprises?
um, I gotta go back to um obviously. I feel like I'm gonna leave a lot. I'll give you another surprise one. We needed a fill-in for a guest back in September of 2020. Now, picture this. It was easy to get guests in 2020, right? Because they were like everyone was available, right? But I couldn't get a guest, right? So Aaron said, "Hey, why don't we bring on Adrian Acosta, who he used to be the national sales manager for AJ Fernandez. He's now a broker, and he has a cigar brand called the Cigar Culture." And again, I was just real. Not only did we have a great audience that night, which surprised me, but it was a great conversation. A guy who was really knowledgeable, has a lot of insights into the industry. He's been there from a salesperson to a broker. Now he's a
Mhm.
brand owner. Just really had a good pulse on the industry. He was for a short time, I think, even doing some stuff with Pravada, although I think that's kind of passed as well. So, Adrian Acosta, it was episode 157. I think that was probably, we were just real surprised how that show kind of came off.
Yeah. I remember that show. I think that I think that's happened a couple of times where like there's just been this really surprise response from the audience share. Like we know that know, for example, like Nick can bring him in. Nick Perdomo can bring him in. Jonathan
Nick
Drew
Cabral was
can
doing it
bring
for
him
no
in.
Army, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like there's a few that you're like I'm expecting. Steve Saka brings them clamoring. Like they're just there's always a great you know amount of people that show up. But interestingly enough, what I thought was fascinating about that is I remember that show because I remember watching. I was like, man, there's a lot of people tuning in this is, and he was a great guest. But
yeah.
it's like the guys from Amendola, Chris and Jeff.
That was
That
another
was
two that were
that was
very,
another one that was like, man, like, and they're like, and then we're not talking about viewership. We're talking about like engagement too. Like I thought that was really
yeah.
interesting. So
Oh, it was. I agree with that one. Definitely agree 1,000% on that one. Um, yeah, that was another good one. We just you don't know. I mean, and a lot of times you just sometimes we try to always have a good rotation of guests. We really try not to put people on more than once a year, except for the virtual trade show. We just don't want to oversaturate anyone. So a lot of that goes into it, and sometimes we have to make a decision. If we're going to put someone new on, can they one bring an audience in, and two, can they really, more importantly, carry a show? we've had very good luck with that. We've been blessed with that. Like the people we brought in, I bring them back. Another one with the ATL cigar guys, Leroy Janelle and Peter Gross. They were another kind of last minute one. They were fantastic when we had them on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think about I've heard about Peter is interesting. Like a lot of people say, like outside of like shows, like because I interviewed him at the trade show, and you had a fantastic show with him. Like some of the feedback I've heard about Peter is that he's not very chatty, he's not very talkative. That's going to come up again
That's
with
what
another person.
Oh, I heard that
And
too. Yeah,
I
I heard
thought
that too.
Peter was freaking great, man. Like he was
I
like
I
super chatty and
I
like
got two
also just
I
great
got two
personality.
phone calls. Yeah, I got two phone calls. You sure you don't need another guest? Like I'm available. I'm like, what do you mean? But he was I bring
Yeah.
them back. They were fantastic guests. Yeah.
Yeah, Leroy is good people too, man. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Brought a good audience in too for us. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and Bear, I gotta say another one, okay? Because I've heard this one, and I know we're gonna talk probably a little more about this later on, but James Brown, we've had him on about 4 or 5 times right now on Coop.
Hmm.
I've heard James is quiet, he's not chatty. We've had incredible shows with James.
Hmm.
We never had blank airtime with James. Go listen to the shows is what I'll tell people.
Yeah.
But, like if you're gonna tell me that, then you haven't heard him on the Coop show
You
or
haven't heard
or
him.
an LO.
Yeah.
You haven't heard him. So go watch our show is what I'm gonna say because the proof is we have the proof out there with that.
Well, just like I always just again just shallow brag here. Just like maybe you're not asking the right questions.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
A fair point.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say about James later on
Yeah,
tonight because
yeah. I know
that
we're gonna
that,
talk more about him.
that guy's world class, man.
Mhm.
All right, shortest. What was the shortest episode of Primetime?
Boy, it might
Everyone talks about how fucking long we talk, Coop. So I thought this was an interesting one to bring up.
have been. It was either I believe it might have been Casey Hogan. Believe it or not.
The very first one.
Yeah, I believe the first one was about 90 minutes. So I believe that it was Casey Hogan. And that was because again we were trying not to force the format. We had less sponsors back then, things like that. So I'm gonna actually pull up what the number was on that, but I'm 99%. Yeah, 1 hour. It wasn't even 90 minutes. It was actually 89 minutes. So that definitely is the shortest one.
Here you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so I got two hard ones for you back to back here, Coop. Let's go with the. I'm going to flip flop on you here because I sent you the lines. Most controversial episode of Cigar Coop Primetime.
Most controversial episode. A lot of people probably want to say it's the Brian DeCend interview.
Yeah.
Because that, and look, I'm going to say this. I thought it was a good show, very good show. I had a lot of people give me positive feedback on how that show was handled. There was an unfortunate incident where we had to edit out something. And that's something that we had to put that in on that episode. So, and that's what the controversy was. By the way, we would do that again, and we may have even done it a couple times before. I know I've done it on Stogie Geeks before. We had to pull some stuff out. So it was just we had to do that. But I thought the interview, look, again, I thought we had a very good interview minus that piece. So that was controversial. But I think the other one that was a little controversial, mainly because we didn't go and how can I put it? We didn't address the elephant in the room, and it was Tim Osgoner on episode 243. And the story with this was we had booked Tim Osgoner a long time before the Crown Heads Luciano fallout. We felt it was unfair. We didn't want to get in the middle of this, right? So we thought it was unfair that if we get a guy like Tim Osgoner on, that we pepper him with questions on this, right? We didn't want to do. The only thing we did ask Tim was about some of the factory, what he was doing as far as his factories go. And he really couldn't talk much about it. But we did take a lot of criticism for that interview because we didn't ask those questions about this whole, and that was a bloody divorce at the time, unfortunately. So we took a little hit with that one. People weren't happy with that, but we felt we had Tim Osgoner on. He hadn't done a lot. I think we were the first podcast he did actually, and we wanted to respect him. And honestly, we did not want to use our show to get in the middle of the divorce hearings. So that was the other, and I think you and I have talked about that too. So that was a controversial one for sure.
I mean, I think that also came up too. A couple of times you've kind of skated with it, and I'm sure I don't want to step on the toes of any other categories that you might mention this, but I think it was very clear that there was a certain part of the histories of certain people's companies that they didn't want to talk about for one reason or another. Not going to speculate because they didn't get spoken about, right? But like Jonathan Drew, for example, it was all post-acquisition talk. There wasn't really, there was a little bit of pre.
There was some pre, yeah, but there was, and I don't want to go, but there was one area when we did the prep, we were asked not to do it.
Yeah.
But no one said anything about it, is what I'm going to say.
Well, yeah, for instance, the hand-rolled guys, I think it got addressed very, very, very subtly, but not too much, like the fact that Honduras wasn't even mentioned in the documentary, which was something I definitely brought up in my interview. But again, I wouldn't say controversial. It was just but a little bit of a hot take.
Yeah. Definitely a little bit of a hot take for sure. Yeah, but the hand rolled. I was kind of pissed off originally, right, with those guys, because we were getting no responses from anyone, right? So I said, fine, I'm not going to go to the showing. And then Pete calls me up. I didn't know Pete was involved with this, right, even at the time. And Pete's like, hey, he kind of talked me off the ledge with it. So I went and I was happy about it. And then we actually invited them on the show afterwards. So all was good and all was forgiven. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little closer to Jesse than I am with Steve Garabine. Both are world-class guys.
Great guys. But
Jesse is, Jesse in particular for me, I think Steve is an incredible documentary maker. Like, he's got an amazing skill set. I think Jesse's a little bit more of an artist. But Jesse and I really bonded over the fact the way we view conversation. And then it's not just him and I had this, and it was actually off air. It was really interesting. But we were talking about how it's not necessarily what people say, it's how they say it that's important. And that's something that, in a live interview like we're doing now, Coop, it's really kind of hard to emphasize. And it's really kind of fun. It's really interesting to articulate certain aspects of it. But what you're able to capture in a documentary is you can take those moments, contextually and again artistically, but with respect to the medium, and really bring that articulation to the forefront. And I think they did that beautifully in a lot of ways.
Yep. I agree. I have so much respect for those guys that, at least for as long as I can do it, Cigar Coop has on the sidebar, one of the ad spots we'll take you to the hand roll movie on YouTube. And that will always be there. So we're not looking to get clicks or anything with that, but we wanted to give them a permanent portal. If you're on our site or you don't know where to find the movie, go and do that. We'll do something similar with Jason. I haven't done that yet. But yeah, so that will be, you can easily just go there, is what I'm saying, is and find it. So because we thought it was very important. I think you and I agree. Handroll's important to what this industry is. The docuseries now is the next step with this, which is like Casey Newman one came out unbelievable, by the way. If you haven't seen, you saw the final product of it yet?
Not the final.
The rough cut?
I just saw the rough cut.
The rough cut. Okay, the rough cut's amazing. The final cut's even better. So
yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So
those guys were up to 3 a.m. editing.
Yep, they told us that the next day. Yeah, and I'm like, I knew it was a rough cut, but I didn't realize how much they were up against the deadline with that. Yeah, but it didn't really look like a rough cut, right? It's just
Well,
we knew ahead of time it was a rough cut.
if you know what to look for, like if a layman sat there and watched it, like, with all respect to most of the audience,
Yeah,
most people were like,
yeah,
they couldn't tell. It's phenomenally done. Like, the rough cut was
yeah,
phenomenally done. It's a great way to tell a story.
yeah.
The people
I
they got
agree.
on and stuff, but yeah, I was talking to Jesse. I was like, man, God, you guys. I mean, I didn't mean no disrespect with it. I was like, man, you guys were up till 3 doing it because, again, the reason they were up till 3 wasn't because they were procrastinating. They lost a shit ton of edited footage that they had to go
Yeah,
back and recreate.
yeah,
I mean, what an insanely scary thing. It was nuts.
yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the list here, Coop, for categories. So that was some of the most controversial, right?
Right, right.
What was the worst episode of Cigar Coop Primetime? Your opinion.
Ernesto Padilla, episode 38. Um, we had it was a train wreck. I don't even know what else to say. Um, I had a prep call with him like earlier in the day, and he basically goes AWOL on the show and comes on the show, and he's not even in a house or studio. He's in a car driving over Key Biscayne, and it was like all the prep stuff we talked about the show was out the window. It was a train wreck. Um, are we doing this for special edition too, or is this for every? This is just for prime time. We're talking, right?
We can bring anything you want to
I
for
have. I
special.
have I think you know the train wreck show
Well,
for
let's go ahead
special
and bring it.
edition.
Let's go ahead and bring it up. I mean, while we're on it. No, I did not have this category for special edition, but go ahead. I know which one
Okay.
you're going to talk about. So
Yeah, and this one, I know you have different feelings from me on this one, but it was a
yes, I do.
pandemic episode. It was a pandemic episode, and we had invited on Mike Bellady. It was 71, and that show ended up turning in. Was it Mike? Was it Mike Bellady? Or was it Jared?
Mike Beldy was the
It,
guest,
it,
and Jared Trudeau came on as a impromptu.
and it turned into a Herf show. And the show came off the rails. We had no control of I felt I had no control of the show. Um,
I brought it
because
back, man.
again,
I brought it back.
you
It's all
brought it,
good.
you brought it back. You saved it because I was about to cut the show. I never almost pulled the plug on the show, and that was the only one I was about ready to pull the plug because again, I did not want the Herfs have a great place.
Yeah.
That's not what my sponsors signed up for, and I hope that's not what my audience signed up for. So I kind of felt it was coming off the rails. Not that anyone was doing anything terrible. It was just disorganized, disjointed. It looked like I wasn't prepared. It's the one show I can't even go back and watch. It was so bad. I know you feel different, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
because
was the
but I think our approaches are a lot different. Coop, you and I both know that we both do prep work for shows.
yeah.
There's certain hosts and certain
Yeah.
shows where there aren't a lot
We
of prep work
yeah,
done, and the HERF category certainly falls under
yeah,
that model. And
right,
there's a place for it, and but and I mean this with the sincerest respect that I hope
right.
you hear that it's intended. I'm a lot better on the fly than you are.
No, you are. I'm gonna say that too. I tend to want to go not scripted, but I want to be a little more structured. With that for sure. Um, but that being said, it was just really, I just felt that wasn't what we had. That wasn't what if we want to do a HERF, let's do a HERF. I just felt somewhere else. Um, because I just and maybe a lot what your comment is accurate. I'm not comfortable in that situation, right? So again, I'm not trying to bash the guests or anything like that,
Yeah, no, I
but
thought
you're right.
Jared was phenomenal, and so I mean, Belody was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just I'm not. It's not my. I said I want people. I was really worried because at the time too, there was so many of these HERF shows coming, right? That there was confusion if we were HERF, like people getting confused between podcasts and HERF shows, and I was starting to see that confusion even that night. Especially when people in the audience started coming in and stuff like that. It was just, you know, and again, we think we ended up developing palettes to do the herf piece of it. I have been asked several times about doing a herf show. It will never ever happen on our branded shows. It would be something outside the branded shows if we did it.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite Ernesto was an absolute like train off the rails. Like I just was so frustrated after that show. That was primetime episode 38. But this was special edition 71. Most of the show was good. It came off the rails in the last half hour is when that happened. But I'll never. Oh, here's the other thing. If someone asks if they can dial into a show, it will never happen on my watch unless we understand why they're coming in. If you want to just come in and talk to someone, it's not going to happen. If there's a reason, we can work that out. Maybe surprise a guest or something like that, But we have to know why you just can't come on the BS anymore. At least on the primetime shows branded going forward.
Well, you and I both participated in that 24-hour podcast from Meet the Professor.
Yeah.
And that was also the style then. Like you had a prominent guest that you were interviewing.
Right.
Like they selected members of the media. I was one, you, McTavish, Fernando, Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
And then some others, obviously.
McTavish was on there, Matt Tobacco as well. Yeah.
Matt Tobacco, Garofalo, like we all did little segments and stuff. And Rich Meyerberg was my guest, but Daniel Marshall came on, and I thought that was great, man. I thought that was a great spot.
It was a little different model with that show, though.
Yeah.
Because the same thing, Christian Aroa popped in on ours. That was kind of set up, like we knew ahead of time this might happen. So that's why that was a little different. I knew, and the other thing is, it was, again, that format was a little different, is what I'm saying. So, but it worked in that case. And in fact, Christian dialed in, like he was supposed to be on with Ferdinand. He dialed in early with me, but he stayed on. He was a total gentleman with that. So it was great to talk to him on that. And I think Daniel, I remember he was in the hot tub, right? Was he in the hot tub when you had him?
Yeah. Daniel Marshall was in the hot tub. That was great.
By the way, we had Daniel Marshall on. You came and guest hosted on primetime with Daniel Marshall. That was unbelievable. Another unbelievable show. Yeah.
That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that too.
Yeah.
But okay, so back to some categories here. So back to primetime. Then we dipped into.
I know we dipped into that one, but I thought there was a reason why we dipped into special edition with that one. Yeah.
So let's talk about the most impactful show in your opinion. Like what show or shows were the most impactful to the history of the Cigar Coop primetime brand? Again, this is primetime.
Yeah. So I think I want to pull up my list here because I have a few of these in here. So bear with me. I apologize. What happened is to get legitimacy on a show, right? You really had to bring in the guests that had not done the shows, like these types of shows, before. So I think when it was prime time, I want to say, I want to say, I want to make sure I don't miss anything here. I got to go back and I got to say it was Alan Rubin, the real Alan Rubin, on episode 104. And I think that changed the game for that changed the game for this show. Because the guests that we had on beforehand were fantastic guests, right? They were some of the best of the best, right? There was another one I just thought of before that one, but Alan was a guy who had not done podcasts before. Like he had not done this before. He was kind of considered a little aloof, right? Like not reachable, right? So we had Alec and Bradley on a few months earlier, and Alan wanted to come on our show. And again, this is a guy who'd not gone into this space before. And I think I told you I was a nervous wreck before this show. I was never more nervous for a show like this one because I was just worried that something would go wrong. And we were like the big name that would we were opening the door for some of these guests to come on that had not done these types of shows before. And here's the other thing. I knew we had Nick Perdomo 4 shows later on, right? So we were working on Nick Perdomo, who's in that category as well. And all I kept thinking is if the Alan Rubin thing bombs, like Nick Perdomo's just gonna be like, yeah, he's not gonna want to do this, right? So, but it was unbelievable. Alan was an unbelievable guest. I know we're gonna be talking more about Alan later on. So I would say that one because that opened the door for us to bring in the Nick Perdomos, the Glenn Wolfson, right? Glenn Wolfson had not done a lot of these shows. Eduardo Fernandez comes on. We started seeing these names just come out there. Jeremiah Mirafel comes on later on. So these were names that just hadn't done shows before. And we were able to get them first. There was another impactful show, Bear, and I can't believe I missed this one. Charlie and Jack Tarano, episode 37.
I'm glad you
Why
bring this
this was
up.
so why this was so impactful. Long story short, Charlie Tarano, people know sold the company back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
He had sold the company, and Charlie really had gone he kind of disappeared for a while.
Rode off into the sunset, man.
Right. He did another show before us. But I think Jack wanted him on our show. And it happened to be I was going to be in Florida. And I was able to get Charlie Tarano on. On that previous show, Charlie really never told the story behind the sale of the show. We get Charlie on this show, and Charlie was like an open book. And this is where the impact came in. Former Tarano employees were tuned in that night, and they were learning about what was going on for the first time. Like they didn't know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that went on. And we got and they weren't mad about it. It's just we provided a platform to ask the questions that needed to be asked. And Charlie put no handcuffs on us, by the way. He was total and open book with this whole thing. He couldn't have been nicer. And like I said, that show, Aaron was remote that night. The magic in that room that night was just unbelievable. Having Charlie and Jack on that night. I don't think I'll ever recreate another moment like what we had that night. So people might not remember that show, but it was very impactful.
I do,
because like I said, yeah. In fact, the funny thing is that Jack had all the Tarano cigars. So
nice, man. That was good stuff, man. That was a really great episode. All right, cool.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of you and I went to we saw Charlie at Carlos Tarano's memorial.
Yeah.
You and I went to Carlos Tarano's memorial. I know Charlie was really appreciative. When my dad passed a month later, Charlie was one of the first guys to reach out to me. So it meant a lot. I know he didn't forget that we were there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was talk about impactful experiences.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, no, it was a very emotional day. Yeah.
I remember
Jack.
Yeah, I remember when we left and we got back in the car and we didn't talk for for like
we didn't talk for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes. Like we're just sat there, just like drive wherever our next stop was. We were just kept going.
And here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. I knew Charlie, but I'm closer to Jack, and I said, Bear, look, I'm really close to Jack. I think he really would like us to be there. Would you mind going for an hour? And so you were great about it. So that's really what happened there. Yeah. And it was a very special night, a special moment to, when he called me, he called me, he sent me a message. Charlie, oh, my dad passed away. It was very nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's one that I think is interesting. We love milestones, and it's kind of funny that we're doing a milestone-esque show on a non-milestone number, but we like milestones, anniversaries, 10s, 50s, 100s. Best milestone show, primetime.
By far, I'm gonna go with episode 200, Corey Bappert of Oliva.
Interesting. Okay, because we cover Oliva.
Yeah.
Hashtag we cover Oliva.
Again, we cover Oliva. I took a shot. I said I want to get the guy from Oliva on. I made a cold call to him. he got back to me, and he's like, "When do you want us to do it?" And he was a great guest. And again, I think we had this door opened, like with the Alan Rubens, the Nick Perdomos, some of these Eduardo Fernandez there was a history here. And Corey, this was such a good show because Corey's one of the few guys who worked his way up to the top spot in the company from like the ground up. Like he was an Oliver. He started at the very bottom. I don't want to say bottom, but entry level. You know what I mean? And he worked his way up to CEO, and he's becoming a very well respected figure in the industry. So I got to go as far as milestones go on prime time. I would say 200 for sure. That was the most important one for me. To get someone from again, how many podcasts have had Oliva on their podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
And to get the top guy, company that's not known to do this, right? And I think we had. I'm sure Corey checked us out. I'm sure he checked us out before saying yes to this. So, I know he's got some friends who are friends of ours. I'm sure he checked them out. But we were able to get him, and it was a fantastic mile. Like, so again, there's other shows that might have been bigger than that. But when we say milestone, we're talking like episodes 200 or anniversary shows.
Yeah.
Right.
Anniversaries, or like 200, 100, 150, 250. Yeah.
I'm going Corey with 200 for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. This is not on the Alosa Fumar takes categories, but I thought I've had a couple of great ones, man. I had Nick Perdomo on
150. 250 or
150.
150, yeah.
Pete Johnson at the time, which is interesting because I've had him on several times since.
Yeah. 100.
Pete and I have become, I would say, pretty good friends. Which has been, I think, one of my biggest pleasures in the industry. Has been getting to know him on a personal and a friend like level. And but man, he was my white whale, man. I wanted him for 100. I mean, I reached out, months in advance, and I was like, I want to make sure that this gets it. And he was like, well, I'm getting married. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, we'll work around any dates we need to. But I was like ready and prepared and stuff. And it landed on like, we didn't have to do any adjustment. It landed perfectly.
Yep.
And what was great and awful about the show was the fact that it was the first time, Coop.
I remember this. I was watching this.
Where my fucking internet went out.
In the middle of episode 100.
In the middle of it, I'd got 100 episodes, 100 fucking takes, man. 100 takes. And my internet goes out. Pete doesn't know what's going on. And God bless that man. He stays on. He starts answering questions in the chat. And
Pete took over as the host. Pete took over as like the host.
Yeah, and I mean, I had never prepared for that scenario, man. Like so he picked up with that bomb, took it on the chin and kept going. And I dialed in for a portion of it, got my internet back up, and lo and behold, there we go.
Yeah, Pete did a tremendous job. That was a tremendous show. And it was like it was the ultimate like bad luck moment. Again, this is something I feared would happen with Alan Rubin, right? Mm-hmm. This is the stuff. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I didn't know how Pete would react when you went down either. I mean, he was still. I didn't know him well at the time. It was really.
You could have hung up. Yeah, you could have hung up.
He could have hung up on it. He could have hung like, what the heck, like these guys aren't prepared, But he was great about it. He was totally understanding. He was a true professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Pete said, I think we lost Bear. I think. And then I think I messaged him and said, hey, I think just to let you know he's had an internet problem. So I think because I was watching that night.
Yeah, it was really great, man. That was really great.
Yep.
I had great, and we had a great audience that night. Sean was there. I know he's the one chatting right now. So Sean was there, and man, they really held it together for me. I think they started asking about guitars and music. I missed a ton of good shit. I went back and listened to it, but it was great.
It wasn't filler. Pete did a great job. Yeah. It was. And that's just, I think, it's a testament to the platform that you've built, too. So, I mean, good job with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes I think when we do these shows, it's how we recover from these moments that are where we really shine. Mm-hmm. And you recovered nicely, yeah. because you came back on and you were able to kind of, the show had to go on.
Yeah, as always,
Yeah.
man, as always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to take a break now and do one of our fun segments, of course, and then we're going to get into Primetime Special Edition, which, of course, you and I co-host.
Okay.
And this, of course, this next segment is our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So, Coop, your first name is William.
Yeah.
William Henry Harrison.
Yep.
Shortest tenured president in history.
Yep.
Grandfather to future president, Mr. Benjamin Harrison. Mr. President.
Yep.
Benjamin Harrison. But that has not. We're not asking that. We're not asking questions around those two pieces of trivia.
Yep.
We're talking about a battle in which he commanded. So a lot of people don't know this about William Henry Harrison. His legacy was cemented by his service in the military, specifically the War of 1812. Now, which battle in the War of 1812 cemented his national legacy that led to his widespread popularity that led to the Whigs nominating him for president, which he ultimately won the election, right? Was it A, the Battle of Lake Erie, B, the Battle of Prophetstown, C, the Battle of Fort Wilderness, or D, the Battle of Tippecanoe?
Tippecanoe.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Okay. Why? I'm not trying to make you second guess. I'm just saying why.
The Tippecanoe thing connects. I'm connected with him with that name for some reason. That name's associated with him, right? Tippecanoe, I've heard it mentioned when he's mentioned. That's why as soon as you said it, I probably because I was like maybe I didn't know the other ones for sure, but as soon as you said Tippecanoe, I knew right away it was Tippecanoe because I've heard that name mentioned with him.
Yep, and that is correct. That is correct. So, Prophetstown is actually was actually the name of the town that Harrison led men out of going into the Battle of Tippecanoe on the camp and he was encamped in the Tippecanoe River. This is on November 7th, by the way, 1809. So, excuse me, 1812. So by the way, the Battle of Fort Wilderness never existed. That's a fictitious battle, and I brought that back from the movie, the Mel Gibson's The Patriot.
I didn't know. That I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, so didn't actually happen. It's a made up battle. Lake Erie is a battle that actually took place after Tippecanoe that he actually did also win as well. He was an incredible commander, man. The threat against the settlers were pretty serious in 1809. So, and of course, this was led
this was like in Toledo, right? This battle.
Yeah. No, so if you remember, like of course, it was the British, but the British had allied with local Native American peoples, precisely the Confederacy that was started by a very young and energetic and eloquent chieftain. Remember Tecumseh. He had a brother who was known actually as the Prophet, and they began to strengthen their confederation to prevent further encroachment. So this was more of a defense rather than an offense. So in 1811, Harrison received permission to attack the Confederacy. So while Tecumseh was away seeking more allies, so he actually wasn't at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Tecumseh wasn't. Harrison led about 1,000 men out of Prophetstown. Suddenly, like in the morning, it was like, I believe November 6th or 7th, something like that. And by the way, this is November in Ohio, so it's fucking cold. Just want to point that out.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Native Americans attacked the camp at Tippecanoe River. After heavy fighting, Harrison and his men repelled them back. They did suffer pretty greatly. They lost 190 men, but they got him out of there. But this garnered him national acclaim and a fame that was forever cemented. And it's sad because his military status is a footnote in history.
He's known as the 30-day president or
the 30-day president. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shortest tenured president, and of course the grandfather of Benjamin Harrison. So like, those are his claims to fame, which is
Yep.
sad because, um, what it did what at the time was it really disrupted Tecumseh's Confederacy, but also little known fact is even though that was the case, he failed to actually diminish the raids by the Confederacy.
Yep.
And what the Confederacy I'm talking about again is Tecumseh's Confederacy, not to be confused with the the actual Confederacy, as we refer to commonly in this country. But by the spring of 1812, they were really terrorizing frontiers. So in the War of 1812, he won more military laurels, was given the command of the Army of the Northwest with the rank of Brigadier General. So he also commanded at the Battle of the Thames, or also known as the Battle of Lake Erie.
Right, right. Yeah,
October,
that was after Tippecanoe, right?
yeah, after
Yeah.
Tippecanoe. So this is October 1813.
Yep, yep.
So he defeated Native American forces which had allied with British forces. And guess who was there in that battle? Tecumseh. And
Okay.
Tecumseh was killed at the Battle of the Thames, or the Battle of Lake Erie, as it's known.
Wasn't wasn't he in a dual role in the War of 1812 as governor as well?
He was. Yeah, good call.
Okay, I
Good call
thought so.
that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was in a dual. Yeah, but yeah, I thought he was a governor, but he was a territory governor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right, he
because
wasn't a state because the state wasn't there yet. So
yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. He was in a dual role. Like imagine you're a governor going out there and fighting these battles.
Yeah, so after this battle and after the death of Tecumseh, like the Confederacy just like disbanded, man. It's like I mean, it shattered.
Yeah, yeah.
So Harrison returned to civilian life at that point. He was not in office, but the Whigs, who needed a national lead, they needed a nominee. So they rallied behind him and his heroics and nominated him for president in 1840. And he won by a majority of less than
Was it
100
1840 or 1830?
1840.
No, I think it was 1830. Because 1840, I thought Polk was 1840.
Pretty sure I'm right.
You may be right. I'll trust you on this one. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm thinking of something else. You're right. It's 1840. Yep. He was elected in 1841. He served in 1841. I just looked it up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah, so
We went to a lot of presidents from like 1841 to 1861.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had Harrison in 1841, John Tyler, his VP, who becomes president, right?
Yeah.
Never nominates a vice president, by the way. He goes in his
Yep.
entire presidency with no vice president.
Yep. Yep.
Polk wins in 45.
That's what I
That's
was
who you
saying.
did.
Polk.
So Polk was
Yeah, that's what I
after
was saying. Does Polk
Zachary.
say
Yeah,
Zachary
Zachary
Taylor?
left 4 years later,
Yeah.
dies.
Pierce. No, Millard Fillmore.
Fillmore,
Then Pierce.
then Pierce,
Then Buchanan.
then Buchanan.
Yeah. Mid Lincoln. Yep.
And then, of course, still my opinion, the greatest president ever, Abraham Lincoln.
Yep. He's up on Mount Rushmore for a
I,
reason.
I was asked this question recently, and I've like greatest leaders in history, which is a fucking tall order when you think about the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about the United States, and I was like, man, it's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, I have my favorites, Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, right? It really is like, what is it? 1A and 1B for you. 1A and 1B, is it Lincoln, Delano Roosevelt? What's the top for you?
Lincoln,
Like,
Reagan.
okay.
Yeah, Reagan was very high up on mine.
Is that personal, or is that like you feel like the impact to the nation and its
I
national
think the impact.
history and trajectory?
Listen, I think absolutely the impact to the nation. Growing up in the 70s, you had to understand we had these fears of nuclear war. We had fear. We were still the stigma of Vietnam was happening. Then we had the inflation. We had a pretty bad recession in the 70s. Then the Iranian hostage crisis happens.
Right.
Reagan really restored a lot of that. So I guess it's personal, but I also see the impact that it had more so than a lot of other presidents.
It's fair.
Yeah. I
I
don't
mean,
know how. I
Reagan's
mean,
up there for me too.
yeah,
It's not like wow, like that's left
yeah,
field.
yeah. I
But
think I told. Yeah, I think if you ask me, my favorite president, right, but he wasn't the most impactful, was Grant. I think I've told you Ulysses S. Grant's one of the most amazing stories of a guy to get to the presidency, how he did.
mhm.
So he had a lot of problems.
Yeah,
So
while receiving enormous public criticism, like we
yeah,
think,
yes,
like when we say like, I think our last two presidents, it's particularly
yeah,
the age that we live in, right?
uh-huh.
I think our last two presidents, people would pretty much say that like it's the criticism on for both President Biden and President Trump has been pretty well documented.
Yeah,
I think that's
true.
apparent.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
agree. But here's an interesting fact, Bear. If Biden gets reelected and serves out his full term, what will he be the first person to ever do?
Service president in his 80s.
There's something more. I wasn't looking for that, but that's an answer. You want me to tell you? And you could correct me if I'm wrong, by the way.
Yeah, shoot, fire away.
Only person that served 2 terms, 2 full terms as vice president and 2 full terms as president.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. That's correct. That is
Yeah,
100%
I
correct.
mean, so
Yeah.
he's got a chance to do. He's got a chance to do it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that would be very historical. The '80s part is valid. Yes, the '80s part is totally valid. He's
Yeah.
already accomplished that, though. Yeah, but if he gets to this,
Yeah.
yeah.
To be elected in his 80s was sorry to refine my answer. Um,
Yeah. If he gets elected, he will be the first octogenarian to be elected for that second. But no, you look at all these vice presidents who became presidents. There's never been one to have the 2 terms complete.
sure.
Complete. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
there's a
thing.
yeah. Nixon didn't serve out his second term.
Right.
Nixon would have did it. Nixon would have did it. Yeah.
Yeah, Nixon would have done it. Gore never got elected. He had a chance if
Gore
he had
never got
beaten Bush.
elected. Bush Senior didn't get reelected. But Nixon actually got reelected, but he didn't serve out the full term, is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Nixon was like the closest one I can think of in recent memory to do that.
Yeah, and Roosevelt had 3. A lot of people ask, like, well,
But he wasn't a VP. But he wasn't a
true,
VP.
and he wasn't a VP. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. No, I was talking
wasn't a
about.
VP,
I was
yeah.
talking about Truman, because Truman served. Didn't even serve a full term as vice president. But
No, he didn't serve a full term, right?
But he did win.
Yeah.
He won 2 elections.
And
one election rather.
Yeah, yeah. And then Johnson kind of served a full term, a part term as vice president, and then a part term and a full term as president.
Correct.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. So that was our
Yep.
presidential trivia segment, which is always brought
Good
to
job.
you
That was a
by.
good one.
Yeah, I thought so. Love tying it to people. So that was our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havan, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So back to our picks, man. I think this is a really nice journey that we've taken down as we kind of go into it. So
yeah.
And again, for those people who have just tuning in we're kind of going through our shows. We've done 835 total shows in the Cigar Coop Coalition, to say nothing of the Smoking Syndicate reviews, which I did not count in the number, mostly because those are singular. We've done a couple of duels.
But they're singular. They're not podcasts. Those are videos. I think they're different than roundtables of podcasts.
Correct. So let's move on to special edition Coop. So, we've told the story a couple of times, but just in a brief synopsis. How did you and I get started, and how did it end up becoming what it is today?
Well, I always knew I wanted to have, like, Primetime. I told the vision of Primetime. I wanted to have this second show, which, Cigar Coop's a news site, right? but I didn't want to have a news show where we read the news, right? So I had this idea of doing like a news magazine type of format, right? And that was going to be primetime once in 2017, and I was thinking 2018 or 19 for this news magazine thing. One day I'm kind of, like I said, I'm in the middle of this break I had taken from Stogie Geeks before I started primetime, and there's this guy in a humidor doing a video on Hall of Famers. I happened to be Bear. I'd always liked Bear's videos, and I always tuned into his videos, and I liked what you did. Like I liked what you did, and I kind of mentioned something to you, like I like this, and you responded back, like it enough to do a show, right? With some,
Half
and I said
joking.
yes,
Yeah.
half joking, but I said, "Gotta give me a little time. I'm in this reorganization right now with Coop. Not only were we reorganizing the primetime show, we were separating from Stogie Geeks, so we were setting the whole business platform up, and we were doing the migration off the servers. There was a lot going on. So I said, Bear, just be patient with me, right? We get primetime off the ground, and I said, hey, Bear, you want to do this? Like, let's do it, right? We'll set up this thing called Special Edition. You'll be the guest, right? You were the guest on the first show. And it was a fantastic show. There was chemistry. It was like love at first sight. Chemistry was so good. And I said, hey, man, you want to do this again? And like basically be a permanent part of this.
Yeah.
And
off to the races, man.
Off to the races. So what developed was a great partnership. So we started this second show only a few months after, like a month or a half after prime time. And it gave us a whole different avenue to have an extended format. We did start putting some interviews on there because the news magazine format was conducive to that. But news magazine shows do interviews as well, right? So I know it was a little early. We were trying to kind of define the roles of the shows. I think we got them finally nailed down. And like I said, we're about to hit 150 with this show next week. So
yeah, it's really exciting, man. I'm stoked.
So yeah, and I think it's the most unique show, out there. I think by far that is the most unique format we have of any of the podcasts. Because this is the one that no one's tried to replicate.
Yeah.
If anything, the closest thing I've seen to it, Cigar Authority kind of mixes it in with some of their stuff. That would probably be the only other one I could see. And, and honestly, they were doing it first. So, but I think we dedicated the show to this concept.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, Dojo does a little free flowing with themes and thematics. It's a lot of brackets and things. They have a lot of fun. They have a lot.
Yeah, they've done a community type of feel for not just their audience but for the industry. And when we're gonna talk, we've done some things like that. Sort of. We've done a few fun things like that. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been very fun. It's been very fun. So on that point with the news magazine style, we've done a lot. We've developed a lot of themes. Some are single show themes, single segment themes.
Yep.
Some are permanent show themes that we bring back on a recurring basis, right?
Right.
Such as like Mount Rushmore and the aging experiment, things like that.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite, Coop? What's your favorite theme, and how do you think it's going, and where do you expect it to go?
Well, the one I'm really most excited about, but we just haven't done the second one yet of it, is the power rankings one. So I think we are going to make that a regular segment. So I don't feel like that's fair to say. I don't think it's fair to make that yet, but I think that has a lot of potential. You're asking me to pick between Mount Rushmore, aging experiment, and do we have one other one in there? Is there one other one in there? No, I think those are the two we've had, right? Those are probably the ones. Unless I'm missing one. Am I missing another one? Unless we count the like the baseball shows would be the other one. The baseball show would be the other one. Where we've done it. I still gotta go back to Mount Rushmore here. As much as I love the aging experiment. First of all, I feel I don't normally say I'm the guy to take credit. I'm taking credit for Mount Rushmore. No one did it before. We did it on Stogie Geeks episode 75. I wanted to bring this concept into the special edition show. You were very open to it. You kind of helped refine what that concept was going to be. Because you said, hey, let's do it with companies, which I thought was a great idea. And then you said, hey, let's not just do it with companies. Let's map it to presidents.
Well, that was
Like
more
really
organic.
kind of
That was more
it was
organic.
organic, but that was you. That was you who did it. So
Yeah.
I'll say, look, the concept of Mount Rushmore cigars, I'm taking credit. No one did it before me in 2013 on Stogie Eats episode 75. But I feel that one we have done a very, very good job with that one. We've done there's so many companies still to go. We've talked about possibly going outside the realm and doing it with company like different cigar sizes or people, right? But for now, I think we've really we just did La Flor Dominicana earlier this year, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So that was, I would say we did that one. We did that one right after the trade show, I want to say. So yeah, that's probably the one I'm really proud of. Look, I'm not saying no one else could do a Mount Rushmore show, but I feel that's the one we got. Other people have done it, right? But I feel I brought this one to the table, and then you and I made the concept at another level. Like you took this to another level when you came in and came up with these ideas, and the companies you pick are really good companies, and the concept just flows so good. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, man. I dig it. I dig the Mount Rushmore. It's so much fun. The aging
We do two.
experiment's really
We do
cool.
about two. Yeah, the aging experiment again. I think that's really that was organic. I think that concept came on some discussion we were having on the show, and then we came up with the idea of let's actually do an aging experiment and where we get the same cigars, we smoke them. Originally, we did a smoke and then a smoke 6 months later, and then I think you came up again with another idea is, hey, let's do it 6 months and 1 year later.
Yeah.
Um, and it works. We're in the middle of number 5, which is the Padron Family Reserve.
Yeah. 46th
So we have
anniversary.
one coming up in January, or late January, February will be that next one where we wrap up the Padron. And yeah, a lot of fun with that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too. We've done some great cigars with that, and I think it's like I said, it's been a very unique concept. Baseball show, I got to mention that one as well because that was another one that organically came. I don't remember the show number, okay, but we had Bear and I discovered we both really love baseball. Loomis, this was a common bond. And I remember when Darren Dalton passed away. And I asked you, I said, Bear, you got to give me 15 minutes. Please let me talk about Darren Dalton, right? And you were gracious enough to do that. In fact, your son gave me a baseball card of his. I still have. And then after that, we started hearing from people, hey, why don't you guys talk more baseball? And that's how the baseball show came about afterwards.
That's right.
So yeah, that was another one. But again, that happened organically. I just asked you that because I think we were on the night he died, and I said, just give me 15 minutes on. You were great about it. You added a lot to that night.
Yeah, I mean, I think the baseball show in particular, what it's really great about that is we have people, and I say this tongue in cheek a little bit because of one of the panelists, and that's Aaron Lubis, but we have people that are very passionate about the game of baseball.
Yeah.
You know, it for us, it's very, I mean, even I don't like speaking for Aaron, but I mean, even for Aaron, I think there's a romanticism to it that we all have fallen in love with.
It's the closest thing to him being passionate about something that I've seen.
That he loves.
Aaron
doesn't hate everything. He loves baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. So we we're trying to do 2 shows a year with it. And
we
haven't done the
managed to
wrap up season yet.
Yeah, exactly. And we managed to collaborate an entire panel without a Yankees fan. So fuck yeah, we rock.
Yeah. I mean, we originally we kept this panel the same because it was such a good chemistry, but we added Ben on when Ben joined the team. Ben came on,
Hmm.
Robbie came on a little later, but Robbie was part of the original plan. And
Yeah.
Robbie's got a World Series ring. Keep that in mind. Robbie's got a World Series ring. He's very close to it. So yeah, Robbie's come on to
The
that as
only
well.
member of the panel that's employed by our Major League Baseball team. That's an
Yep,
important noted distinction for Mr. Rasmussen.
yep,
Yes.
yep. And
Um,
don't forget, obviously Hector, Mr. Met, and Miguel, Mr. Red. So I mean,
yeah.
you love having, and we've done some marathon shows. In fact, every time I try to cut the show, it seems like it doesn't get cut.
Yeah.
So
Well, we started doing the entire fucking league, like, hey, let's
yeah,
go
we had
through
to cut
team by
that one
team.
down.
Yeah, we did. The National League is heavily represented. The American League is not, but I myself have always
The
been
Amer-
cra Now it doesn't matter because the reason I always loved the National League, even though I'm an American League person, because the Red Sox, is I thought the National League was actually real baseball until they brought the DH into both leagues. Then now it's like, well, fuck that shit. Now
yeah,
it's now all
and
things are equal.
I know, I hate it. I hate it. Don't get me wrong though. The DH got us to the World Series last year with the Phillies. So, so much for me piping about the DH. So it has helped the Phillies enormously.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
can't deny that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't like it. I liked having the two sets of rules. Yeah. But they've become also bear. Those have been some of our most downloaded shows. Those baseball shows are really gotten a lot of numbers for
Oh
us.
yeah,
So
no, they've been
I
great.
think
They've been great. And
there's
so much
one. I
fun.
think that's the fourth most downloaded show. Yeah, it's crazy. So we've gotten some good numbers with that. Yeah.
So along that lines,
Oh,
we
the other
talked.
one, Bear.
Yeah,
Can I mention one other one?
sure, please.
Election Day show.
Yeah.
That's the other one we do once a year. We do a show on Election Day. Leave the politics at the door. We kind of just talk through the returns is what we do, and
Yeah.
we build a show around that. And lighter one this year because of the off year election, but we have the big one coming up next year. So,
Yeah.
and that came up because we had a guest on, Todd Nafee, and that concept was born on when Todd Nafee was organically again when Todd Nafee was on the show.
Yeah, we were
We
gonna
said,
have
"Hey,
him on.
you want to come on the presidential show?" Then he unfortunately couldn't make the show. He was
He got
sick.
COVID. Yeah,
Uh,
man. Fuck COVID, dude.
he got guy
COVID
got
ruined
COVID. The
everything.
guy got COVID, right? But Bear and I actually was test drive the show a year before, so
Yeah.
we actually were already test driving that show. So we tried it out the year before, and we felt it would work. I was really worried about that show, with the election show.
Yeah, man. Dude, like, listen, we're still a year away from the 2024 presidential election, which I'm sure will be highly contentious,
Yeah, yeah,
like it typically is. But Coop, we successfully navigated the most controversial and contentious election in American
yeah.
history.
We did, and our audience was great about it. We've only had one person who almost got kicked out. So
This time they will get kicked out. They
this
say
time
they.
there's no second chance.
All right,
And then he argued why he shouldn't get kicked out.
so we talked about the themes of special edition that were really important, but you did mention that we
Yeah,
bring on guests.
yeah,
So, what was your favorite guest that we brought on? And I have one in particular that's very sentimental to me. Two, if I'm thinking, but I wanted to hear yours first. Favorite guest. Okay, and this isn't favorite person. We don't like trying to play favorites. We look at all things in it, but sometimes there's a take or an episode where you're just like, damn, yeah, that was great. That was really great. So,
well, there's several. There's several. Oh, okay. Favorite guest. I have like four. Why don't you give me yours first, and then I can give
yeah,
you. I'll kind of go through.
the
Yeah,
most sentimental for me, Coop, and it's unfortunately the only person that you and I've talked to on either of our shows that's passed away. And that, of course,
yeah. I know which one you're going with.
is Gabe Alvarez. At the time, he
Gabe
was with
Alvarez was our first guest on
Casa.
special. Yeah,
Yeah, he was our first guest on Special
yeah,
Edition Casa Cuevas,
yeah,
and and man, what a gentleman, what a man. The guy
yeah,
that guy did so much for me personally as well as professionally. We instantly developed a bond when he was with Coots Cigars.
yep,
Went to Maya Selva, then joined, the Cuevas family. and really brought that new company for the third time. He did it for the third time in
Yeah.
his career. He brought a company that was either newer to a market, and really garnered national recognition and acclaim. And that's to say nothing of the representation that I mean, Coots did a good job of launching a brand. Myself has done amazing things internationally, but expanding into the American market is hard, as we've learned. And of course, the Cuevas family has done
Yeah.
nothing but amazing things for decades in the cigar industry. But this was a new brand, and he brought it to market and gained some prominence, helped gain it some prominence a lot along the way. So, yeah, for me, and unfortunately, passed away far too young. And
Yeah. Yeah.
in fact, the anniversary of his death was actually not too many days ago. Which of course was
No,
about
no,
a
it's very,
yeah, and it was about a week before his son's birth too, which is just tragic all around, man. But yeah,
yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
that was probably one of my favorite guests, just personally.
Yeah. He
And
was a great guest. Great. Yeah. Oh, I remember when I told you the news because I heard the news and I'm
oh
like,
god,
yeah, this is about to
heartbreaking,
hear
man.
something. Yeah. I was born. Yeah. We've had so many guests, right? We had the Nick Perdomo obviously is always going to be one. Yeah, Ernesto did our 1 year anniversary show. But the one I'm going back to again, and it kind of fits into the theme we talked about earlier. Special edition 82, Cynthia Fuente. To me,
Hmm.
she's been on twice, and she came on in a pinch hit role, which we could talk about. But you gotta remember when that was August 11th, 2020. We were starting to crack the Fuente. Like this again, we were starting to crack Fuente. We had really wanted to start talking to the Fuentes. And we were finally Cynthia was the first Fuente we had on.
Hmm.
That was before if you want to count Jeremiah, that was before Carlito, that was before Jeremiah.
Just before Liana.
And
Yeah.
before Liana. Liana
Hmm.
was 102. But yeah, to me, having her on was amazing. We're long over. We've had her on once again after that. We're long overdue that because she came on. Remember, she came on with Carlito and Jose when Liana had a family issue. But yeah, to me, it was probably Cynthia Fuente for sure.
Definitely, man. Yeah, she was
Yeah,
great. She was absolutely phenomenal.
yeah, she was amazing. She was amazing. Yeah, Liana was a really good guest too. And we had a couple of times we wanted to get her on, and she was a great guest. I mean, she was so engaging and bubbly, and it was just, but very knowledgeable, and just knew this industry, and just had a lot to offer. That night she was great as well.
Yeah, really fantastic. I mean, just
Yeah,
very much a surprise as well. Like it was just, I think the direction that it went and it took us and everything. And Cynthia's story and Cynthia's interview for us was a lot different. You know,
yeah,
not better, not worse. I mean, they were fantastic, both of them,
different,
but just
different,
different.
different is
Yeah,
the best. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Cynthia's interview is one of nostalgia and history and recognition. Liana's was one of more family and passion and drive.
yeah,
To
yeah,
Sibley. So I think that was what was really
yeah,
interesting about her the
yeah. I
most.
mean, we are long overdue to have Cynthia back on the show. By the way,
Yeah,
long
absolutely.
overdue. We have to work. I have to work on that for 2024. Yeah. But she was unbelievable. So nice and just so
The Queen of
all of them.
Cigars, man.
She's
Is
the queen of
the reason
cigars
she's
for a
got
reason.
that
Yeah,
moniker. Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
yep,
Okay.
yep, yep.
We might have stepped on this earlier because we talked about the one that went off the rails for you. But what was the hardest special edition? The hardest show? I have another
The
one,
hardest one we had.
but
Yeah, I was thinking about this one earlier as well. Um, Back on this one. for a guest or for I would say it was probably a guest
No, just
one.
start a show. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you
Um,
can make it a guest. That's fine.
hardest in terms of prep or hardest for the
It's
okay, I
all
got
these
it.
questions.
It was Hanky Kellner and Eladio Diaz in the DR. Oh, your audio is completely gone out of whack. You sound like a chipmunk. Say something, Bear. Bear, yeah, yeah. Your audio is completely like you sound. You have this for you. Well, Bear is we're having a little audio problem with that one.
How about this? Am I better?
Now you're perfect. Now you're back. Yeah, now you're back. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
that was the one I had. That
Uh
was the one that was the
yeah,
one.
yeah. This was an absolute challenge on every front possible. First of all, we did the show in the Dominican Republic and we pre-recorded it. Second of all,
Hmm.
we needed translation on this show. Third of all, there was a little bit. I don't want to get too much into this part, but there was a little bit of a disagreement what we were doing down there, in terms of the content and when what how this was going to work. So we got that part straightened out. Let's put it like that. But there was a little behind the scenes stuff going on there that was a problem. But yeah, that was a very. I mean, and again, we didn't know if we were going to go live that night, that afternoon, because we didn't know what the signal was going to be like. We had to set up
Hmm.
a studio, makeshift studio, and everything. It was very very hard, that show. But I think we have the only show with Hanky Kellner and Eladio Diaz ever done. If there maybe there's one other or two others, but we're one of the very very few to have that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was really fantastic. And of course, you mentioned the translation that we needed because Eladio doesn't speak
Mm-hmm.
English very well.
So Klaus
Uh,
comes in and
so yeah, Klaus Peter Kellner
did a great job. Yep,
is our translator,
yep,
and he was awesome.
yep, exactly. We also like our even our equipment setup was very different back then. We were running these things off laptops. Now we have like the Ben Lee GoPro cams. Like we didn't have anything like that either. This was that was a really challenge, probably the most challenging logistics show I ever had to do.
Yeah,
It was just
absolutely.
there was so much challenge, and you know I was really stressed out. I mean, if you remember how stressed out I was, Bear saw me at a stressed out level that I don't think he ever saw as bad as I was that day.
Yeah, yeah, man. It was.
But it came.
But as I've often done over the years, Coop, I talked you off the ledge, as I have come to do.
You talked me off the ledge. Yeah, there was a point I didn't know if that show was gonna get pulled off. I'll even be honest with you. But I don't want to. I don't want to go into some of the laundry on that one. But we did pull it off. Yes,
We did.
everything was good in the end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We did, man. We did a great show.
Yeah.
Great
Yep.
interview.
Yep.
Really, some of the most unique questions that those two gentlemen have ever received.
Yep.
A lot of good stuff. A lot of great stuff, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bear, I tell you, this was where Bear really shined, because you talk about Bear kind of being able to wing it, not wing it, but you're a little more agile, let's say, than me.
Mhm.
So I think you really came through on that well. Yeah. I was so glad you were there for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, Cooper, this isn't to pat myself on the shoulder or like, and I mean it with like sincere respect and stuff. I think it's, we all have our strong suits, and I think that like yours comes in the form of prep, and also not just prep, but also just like an encyclopedic knowledge of topic.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, yes, you like your structure, but you're the one who puts the structure in place, and it's not like you're going and digging for shit. Like you're just running off of
A lot of times, like,
main.
right. A lot of the way we prep for the show is, Bear, I put the notes together. It's more structural. And then I said, Bear, go in there and just fill it in and restructure whatever you want to do. And it's worked out really well, I think, with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially
Yeah.
when I've been late with the notes and you've been able to really come through late on that stuff. And it's not unappreciated. It's very much appreciated how you so yeah, I think it's worked out. And I kind of work the same way with Loomis as well. So it works out well with that. And Dave, we'll get to Dave on Jukebox. That's a little different how it's actually the opposite. With that. Dave does the structure on Jukebox. But yeah.
Good stuff. All
Yeah.
right. You've coined a phrase over the years, and it's called the bear moment. Having a bear moment.
Fair
So
moment.
yeah, the best bear moment that you recognize on a show.
Are we talking? Let's make sure we're clear on what you mean by bear moment, because there may be a couple of definitions here,
The way that I
right? So I just
to
want to
it,
make sure I'm
just like
clear.
the inner fanboy in me. That
Yes, okay, that's exactly how I had it. The inner fanboy. Oh, yeah, this is an easy one. This is 69 Nestor Miranda. I'm such a fanboy of that guy, right? That's definitely one up there. Where I'm just such a fan of that guy. It's hard not to, just and that you know how that interview started off when we asked him like why you got into cigars. It's with me chicks.
yeah,
But to me, yeah, that was one for sure that we had a good fanboy moment. Yeah, that would probably be the one I think stands out. Um, Trying to think of another one. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean that would probably be the one where again, because I'm the fanboy. I'm just such a fanboy Nestor. I love everything that guy does. Um, so I would say that one. Then maybe episode special edition 29 was the or I'm sorry 31, which was Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr. But you had the fanboy moment in that one too.
yeah.
So
The
that
Lito
we're
Gomez,
actually
the
talking.
Lito Gomez episode too was really
Lito
good.
Gomez one was another one that came to mind as well. He was really really good. Obviously Nick Perdomo, Carlito, but I still think the Nestor one, because there's just something I love about that guy. And I just love hearing his stories, and it's not about talking about rapper bind a filler with him, it's just, but yeah, so I mean, I'm just in awe when I was hearing those stories from Nestor. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get to our next fun segment, which is, of course, Everybody Eats, sponsored by Postania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just cool people. More than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. So
Everybody
Coop,
eats.
yep, everybody eats. So Coop, Thanksgiving's coming up. So I know you're not the cook in the house, so I won't
No,
ask you a cooking question. But
no.
what is in your mind? What is your favorite Thanksgiving memory? Was it when you were younger at your parents' table? Was it something when Mrs. Cooper made, where maybe when the kids were younger? Maybe a recent one. But what's your favorite Thanksgiving memory?
It was at my grandparents' house. Um, um, and we had Thanksgiving at my grandfather's. He was actually remarried by this point. Um, and we were watching the Dallas Cowboy Houston Oilers game, and uh, I kind of was made to. I kind of felt for the first time I was treated like an adult. With that, kind of watching that game with them. And I had picked the Oilers because I still hated the Cowboys back then. But I was kind of brought into the fold at that point. I want to say I was about 11 or so. But I really felt like I was treated like an adult. I wasn't at the kids' table or anything like that. I was with the guys watching the football, and it was just a very, very cool moment. We were watching the game in the spare bedroom, and it was just beautiful. My father actually wasn't a big football fan, but he was a part of that as well. But my grandfather was a huge football fan. My father's brother was a huge football fan, and they had my grandfather's wife had some family there as well. So it was that moment. I said, I think it was 70. I want to say it was 79. It was I don't remember the exact, but that was the one for sure.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and the turkey was unbelievable that night. I just remember that too. They brought kosher turkey and everything, which was how we did it then. Yeah. So yeah, that was without a doubt my favorite one. My other one I'll just say more recent was my daughter tends to do Thanksgiving. The first year they got married, we went down there for Thanksgiving because they live in
nice.
Columbia. And that was probably the other one. Yeah, and we're going there this year as well. We Thanksgiving is my daughter's taken over Thanksgiving the last few years.
Nice. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
It's turkey.
It's the turkey.
Hands down.
Yeah.
It's still the turkey. Yeah.
When it's made well, it's fantastic. Last year was the best turkey I've ever made. Hands down. Fucking best turkey I've ever made.
Dry, there's nothing worse when that turkey is dry though. I got to agree with that. But now beef Wellington, and I think I was talking about this on KMA, beef Wellington's become my daughter's other dish that she makes. And that I remember that's become a tradition. My daughter's very big on family traditions, so that's now a tradition that we have beef Wellington as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
My daughter's probably a better cook than my wife. And my wife will admit that. It's not anything. My daughter's really good. Yeah.
Yes. And I was going to say, that's no slack on Mrs. Cooper. She can rock a meal.
That's no slack on her. I mean, this is like, if my wife's a 9 in that, my daughter's a 9.5 is what I'm just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was our Everybody Eats segment, sponsored by Postania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. Everybody eats for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
I wonder what those guys are going to eat for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Cereal, probably, for Mike.
Cereal? No, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what Thanksgiving is like at the Palmer house. I know he's not.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen, I think Cussler might can put. I bet Brittany and him rock a great meal. I bet they do. I can see that.
If you wanted an invite from someone in the cigar industry for Thanksgiving dinner, who do you want to get invited by?
John Carney.
I said Rafael Nadal, but John.
Yeah, we had this discussion the other night. Yeah,
we did. Well, we had this about who would cater the PCA, right?
Yeah,
and it's the same names that come up, right? It's funny. Yeah, I'd go Rafael, but yeah, no, I agree. John Carney would be another great one. John Carney famously served me tomahawk steaks on Lent, and I broke Lent.
You broke Lent. The only time you've only done it.
I broke Lent. My wife's like, you gotta eat. I broke Lent. Yeah, he didn't know that till months later. Yeah, he served with these incredible tomahawks, and I couldn't eat them because of Lent. And I tried to hide. He brought them over to me.
now the menu at the Carney house is even more well refined because his wife's a vegetarian, and so I mean, so he's
look, and he's so creative with that. Yeah,
I know, man. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. It's just incredibly well balanced.
By the way, I'm not anti-vegan. I'm not anti-vegan as long as no one imposes it on me. I think it's another avenue of some great food. So
yeah,
I know I hear people bash the vegans. As long as they're not imposing on what I can eat, like I want to try some. I think that I've had some very good vegan dishes. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. There's some great vegan stuff out there.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, but give me a steak all day long. I mean, just saying. But yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, cool. Beef long. Yeah.
So speaking of the Carney Nadal discussion, the last special edition thing that I'll mention, dude, I've gotten some chatter about what probably was our biggest disagreement, and it was in our last episode when we did the election show and we had that rapid fire segment afterwards. So it was like, right, so the Oveja Negra brands, James Brown sells off one of the three, Black Label, Black Works, Emilio. Which one do you buy? Right. And I was like, no hesitation. I was like, Black Works. And
I said Emilio.
And you and I had a comical, lengthy, deliberation and debate over how you were wrong. By the way, I still want to point that out. But yeah, that was probably. I thought about this. We've disagreed over the years. that was probably the most passionate debate we've ever had.
Yeah, it was. We were coming at it from two completely different angles. And oh, by the way, I didn't think you were wrong. I mean, don't even, this was not I took it from a business point of view.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there was, yeah. I was just like, wow, I think there's just a lot of potential with this brand. I kept saying.
Yeah, man,
So yeah, that was a
that was a
big,
lot of fun.
it was fun. And it was all good spirit. Like
Yeah.
there was no like bloodshed or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting because like I said, you was like, because I remember how it started off, like anything but Emilio, and like then I kind of played, and you said, "Don't tell me you picked Emilio," and I'm like, "I did."
Yeah. I couldn't believe it, man. I still
Yeah.
can't believe it. That was comical. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
I've gotten some comments on it. I don't know if you've gotten any feedback about it, but
I haven't. What have you heard? Like people said I'm crazy?
no, not even about our stances, just like how like adamantly opposed we were to each other's viewpoint.
Oh
And
no, I haven't gotten that. But
yeah, and again, I mean, it was all in good fun, so it wasn't like
yeah,
and I think I look back on that, even though it was just a couple weeks ago, Coop, I look back on that and think, man, God, wouldn't it be fucking great if this world could do that? If we could have spirited debate and discussion
yeah,
without feelings getting hurt, like, because
right,
I still
right.
maintain you're wrong, like,
And
and
I still maintain I'm right. I'm still in.
yeah, so I think it's
Well,
it was a healthy representation of
it,
what debate can be in this country.
here was what was really interesting about that, right? So I talked at the beginning how I didn't want our shows to be recreating what's in a lounge. I wanted to recreate this like duo on doing the sports radio, going at it as hard as you can, right? And Mike and the Mad Dog. And I felt that was like a Mike and the Mad Dog moment. But I also thought that was something that could have been a discussion in a lounge very easy too.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of Mike and the Mad Dog arguing about the need for a Yankee Stadium. And Francesca was arguing for the new stadium, and Dog was against it. And I'll just say, years later, Francesca admitted Dog was right. So,
Well, I look forward to that moment, Coop.
yeah, with that kind of reminder, that was a good. Yeah, that was a good. I got some feedback on the whole Mike Palmer thing as well. The Hustle guys put something out there as well on it, and but yeah, I mean, I expected that. So, I mean, a couple people messaged me saying, like in a couple of shows we've done since then, hey, Mike Palmer, did you hear Mike Palmer's the new director of social media? Like, so people are trying to like kind of ping me with that one too.
Yeah, I remember
that was the other one we disagreed on. But you gave an honest answer on that, which was great.
Oh.
That's what's great. You gave an honest answer, which was, I give you credit on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what works for our partnership too. And I'll even throw Loomis, Ben, Nielsen, in it. Like there are cigars we disagree on. There are there are topics we disagree on. There's themes that we disagree on. And I think it's a healthy representation of what discourse can be. I think it's a testament to our friendship and our partnership too. Like I think that goes all encompassed.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Yeah, and the fact that we've never come off on a show where even if we disagreed, there's never been blood, and it's never even an afterthought as far as friendship goes.
Mm-hmm.
Ben and I have disagreed on some stuff, and Nielsen as well, and Loomis and I have disagreed on quite a few things too. So
right.
But it's never once been a problem.
For sure. So getting into a couple of these other shows that we've done, Coop, or you've done rather, in the creation of the coalition, so to speak, and all these episodes and all these takes. Jukebox. Now this was an interesting. Like, I want to give respect to Dave Burke, who's the member of the coalition team that, for the sake of geography, doesn't get often as mentioned, because he's very limited in his
because he's in Australia.
Yeah. If you were here in the United States,
it's the other time of the day for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think if Dave ever moved back to the States, man, we would be freaking balling.
When he came to the States, he came to the States last year, but he was he's got so many people pulling at him, right? I did go to see him and everything, and we decided. Look, Dave and I had never met each other to do a show. It was going to take away from the personal time, so we opted not to do a show when he came to the States.
Yeah.
That may change next time around when he comes through. But he's not coming in the winter anymore. He says so. That's good news. So
So
yeah, he is a very important part of of our team. Yes.
so I picked a couple of moments in Jukebox history. Like this is not just the
Yeah.
show that Dave created. This I'm looking at it as the combined effort. Of when you took over the brand
Right.
and kind of brought it over. Um,
Yeah.
but for me, and you can disagree with this, I think the quintessential iconic moment for that show, because it's done so much for our brand as well as the coalition for a lot of reasons, but the quintessential moment has to be the Rick Nielsen interview, right?
Episode 9. Episode 9. And it started because Aaron Nielsen was tuned into our show on Special Edition. And I don't know how it came up.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, man.
Maybe
He's like, yeah, my dad's
Rock
in the
and
Rock
Roll
and
Hall
Roll
of
Hall of
Fame
Fame.
came up with something. I'm like, who are you? And he's like, oh, my dad's Rick Nielsen. So what happened was I said, Dave, let's just get this guy on, right? I talked to Aaron. I said, Dave, let's get this guy on. And talk about his father. And so we went back to Aaron with the idea. He's like, well, what if I got my father? And again, it was pandemic time, right? So we had a very short window to bring him on. And we brought him on May 4th, 2020. And we're talking to a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
Very nervous for that show.
One of the best guitarists of the rock and roll era, man.
The five neck guitar. I mean, who's a cigar guy? He was a cigar guy as well.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of things that came out of that show were very important. Number one is obviously we get Rick Nielsen on. When we played that show, the Treep Kip community was so supportive. They loved the interview. Like, I was worried how they would respond to that interview, being cigar guys and everything. They loved the interview. The other thing that came out with this is Aaron Nielsen could do a show pretty good. So I went back to you guys and I said, hey, we need a guy for PC. We need another guy for PCA. Let me see if this guy wants to go. And he can help us out however he can. And then we just kind of recruited him and drafted him into the show. So he's kind of like, Aaron's our utility guy. He just came on primetime last Thursday. So it was very important. That was very important. It gave us a lot of credibility very early on with Jukebox. In the music world and in the cigar world, we were really able to introduce Aaron as a full-fledged member of our team as well, going forward.
Yeah, I'm still working on an interview for someone in the music world for my show. And Aaron doesn't know the guy, neither does Rick for that matter. But he gave me a lead that eventually led to a point of contact. So if it happens, it's gonna happen because of Aaron. So
okay, good. That's good. Good. Aaron's got connection. I mean, Aaron just said the other night his dad's going to spending Thanksgiving in Europe with Sting and Steven Van Zandt. They're going to be going around Europe. I mean, Sting and Steven Van Zandt. I mean, little Steven, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So I guessed it on the show too. It's my only guest appearance on this version of Jukebox. I appeared.
Yeah, we may draft you for Neil Diamond, by the way. Yeah, we may draft you for Neil Diamond, just so you know.
Okay. But we did the Little Richard Memorial show, which was
episode
for me
17. Yep.
Yeah, for me was a lot of fun, and a great way of looking back at
you brought a lot of credibility because you brought a lot of credibility with him on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the time of my life, for the entirety of my life, I feel like I was a Little Richard fan, and when he passed, it was really sad for me personally, but the impact that he's had on the music world and on rock and roll specifically, I think was merited an entire show, and I really appreciate it. It was my idea. I approached you about it, and you guys absolutely and you humored me on it, and for that I'm really grateful because it was a fantastic experience.
Yep.
What's the biggest disagreement?
It was a great show.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about disagreements, you and I. What's the biggest disagreement that you and Dave have had on Jukebox? Whether it be about an
As
artist
far as
or a song, you know, you know, the way you guys did rankings. Like, what's the biggest disagreement you guys have had?
I think it may be, and this never got into a war, but Dave really gets behind these newer artists sometimes. And I just think they haven't paid their dues yet sometimes. I know we had this I know we had an argument over not argument, but a difference of opinion on Olivia Rodrigo. Um so Olivia Rodrigo and I completely disagreed that she was getting nominated for Grammys and stuff like that. But I've actually changed on Olivia Rodrigo, what I've seen since then. Um, we disagreed on a bunch of stuff when we did the Rolling Stone Top 500 shows. We did 10 shows on the Rolling Stone Top 500, 50 songs on each show. We definitely disagreed on that one as well. So that was definitely one. I think we disagreed on several songs on that one for sure. But there's been a couple of areas where I've kind of been able to convince Dave on something, and he's kind of been able to convince me on something. So for example, I pushed Dave to start listening to more disco because a lot of the things that Dave stands for were really supportive of the disco artists, female artists, minority artists, LGBT. I mean, the disco community was very open to that, and I don't think Dave realized that. So I think I got Dave a little out of the comfort zone. With me, it wasn't just Olivia Rodrigo. He wanted to do a Taylor Swift show, right? And he convinced his Seth, to do this Taylor Swift show. So they come to me on this, and I'm like, well, look, Dave's got full creative control on Jukebox, right? If he wants to do it, we're going to do it. And I'm like, this is going to be a freaking bomb, right? It turns out to be one of our best shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've been able to do that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've disagreed. You know what we were disagreeing a little on some of the new Rolling Stone songs too, but not heavily as much as he hates one of those new songs. I don't hate it as much. Yeah, that's another one
For sure. So moving on to Roundtable. Now this is the newest element to the Cigar Coop brand.
Yep.
And Cigar Coop Coalition.
Yep.
Now obviously Ben has done numerous reviews at this point and done a fantastic job of building that brand under our umbrella. But we came up with this concept of the round table, and it was Ben's. He wanted to be able to.
It was Ben who came up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, to bring in guests, or flop in panelists and stuff like that. For example, if I couldn't make one, the three of you guys would do one, etc. Right. So far we've done mostly all of us, and then
I think I missed one. I missed the Tatawahe monster one. I think I missed.
Yeah. So what's been your favorite thus far? Your favorite roundtable?
The favorite roundtable. Oh, I had this one written down. Give me a second here. Pull up my notes here because it was the one where we actually disagreed on the cigar somewhat. Just had my list here. Bear with me a second. Bear with me. There was one that we disagreed on. I had it written down too. I'm sorry. I brain farted here. Wasn't Cuba Aliados? Was it Cuba Aliados? No, because we agreed on that one. Which was the one we were the furthest apart on? Wasn't Fine and Rare.
Might have been Winter Collection or the CLE PCA exclusive.
It was the CLE PCA one. That was the Rower PCA. That was on number 5. That was definitely the one I thought that was really good. Well, I kind of had a very different opinion than you guys had on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that one. That was the one for sure. Yeah, I would say that one. We just had La Riqueza. We were not as far apart on, but I was definitely negative on the Aroa PCA one. I was a lot more negative on the whole PCA concept, right? I was the most negative on the whole piece, like PCA exclusive concept. I was so on top of it, I didn't like the cigar, right? So that was the one for sure. Yeah, it was definitely that one. Where we disagreed on with that one.
Where do you see this show going, Coop? Like recently we had, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. We had Fred Rui guest in the latest one. He's coming back
Yeah.
for a second installment of the Aura by EP Korea. Where do you see the future of this show, personally?
It's Ben's call, however the direction of this wants to go. It's his
Right. No,
brand, right?
no, yeah, this
Um,
isn't your choice or
right,
your
right.
vision.
Ben,
This is what your interpretation of where you think it's going.
yeah, I think what I'd like to get this back on a once a month thing, right? Which I think we have to. And it's been hard to do with everyone's schedule. It's no one's fault here. So I think that's the one to do it. I think the other thing what I really would like to see with this is possibly we you were talking about, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I would maybe like to see us kind of go where we kind of recap maybe some cigars that we like enjoyed, and we each smoke a different cigar, maybe something like that. But we're kind of doing that already with the Aura, right? The Aura EP Carrera. So we're already doing that, right? So I kind of like to see more of that, right? Where we maybe take a line, like I'll give you a great example. The Perdomo one, right? We each pick a different blend with the Perdomo 30th, and we smoke that one. We kind of do it in parallel with that, where we're kind of again kind of covering more ground with that than maybe so choose. Here's a really easy one to do. Like if we have four of us, right? We do Padron 1926 and 1964 Maduro Natural. So we could do something like that. So, but I like the format we're doing with it. The other thing I'd like to really see is what you guys have been doing. Not necessarily roundtable, right? But the collaborative things that you guys have been doing lately. Where it's simulcast on El Oso Fumar, but then it becomes Smoking Syndicate. It's not really roundtable, but I like that collaborative format a lot.
Yeah.
I think it works really well. Yeah.
Yeah, those are
so that's not really
great.
roundtable. That's more Smoking Syndicate. Yeah. But again, that's all Ben's call on that. I don't think the formula we need to change all that much with roundtable because I think it works well. Ben came up with the concept of we go on Facebook Live, you can watch everything, right? And then he builds a condensed format for YouTube. But the Facebook thing's still out there if you want to watch the longer thing. And that's where Bear puts in a lot of the questions and everything on that. Yeah. So I think, like I said, I don't think it's broken. It's just been a little more challenging to get everyone together. It's been, especially this year. There's been everyone's had personal things go on, travel, weather, illness. Like we've had a lot this year with that. So and the other thing is I'd like to bring on the guest smoker.
Yeah.
So Fred's coming back on because the story I was in the DR with Fred, and we talked about it, and he said, "Hey, can I hit you up for one of those cigars?" I said, "Hey, I'll send you a couple." And hey, would you want to come on a roundtable? Because we were planning on doing a roundtable with this, and he was like, "I'm in." So I'd like to see more of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Like, there's a couple of guys that love talking about their brands or the brands they represent or work for. But they also are just freaking just love cigars and love to nerd out about. Fred's one of those guys.
And it's tough because not everyone can do that, right? They have company, they have to work the company on. We're able to get Fred with that.
Justin Andrews is another. He loves talking
I was
cigars.
thinking Justin Andrews.
Yeah. I think
I was thinking with Justin, like maybe we pick like an AJ Dorado or do something like that with him. You know what I mean? Something, like that. Yeah.
Something
Justin
in his wheelhouse, but yeah, necessarily STG or maybe STG. Yeah, I mean, it'd be.
I think Hustler Mike would be great at it too.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
I think Hustler Mike would be really good at that. But yeah, that's there's a lot of other guys that that smoke a lot of stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's just we'd have to look at that too. I know some people who smoke other stuff may not want to do the show. There's a few people I have in mind that I know wouldn't do the show, but I know they smoke other stuff. Bradley Rubin would be a great one, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Or
Bradley
even
Rubin smokes
Alec.
everything. Yeah,
Alec
but
too.
I
Yeah,
don't
both
know.
of them.
But or
Yeah,
Alec. Yeah, but I have to kind of feel that one out because not I don't want to put them on the spot if hey maybe that's just something that their parent company doesn't want them doing. So I gotta be a little careful with that too. Or we gotta
for
be
sure.
careful with that.
For sure. So
Yeah.
our next segment, which is brought to you before we get into LL's Fumar Takes, brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place; it can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Now, Coop, you know the
Mhm.
theme of this particular segment,
Yeah.
but I
Yep.
decided to change it up a little bit. And
Okay.
this
I know
this
we've done this a couple of times. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, this roster that I'm about to ask you to go through and pick is deep. So I
Okay.
apologize for putting you on the spot, but I think it warrants it
No.
considering the
No
theme of
problem.
tonight's show. So normally this is what it, normally this is a cigar like what, when you were by yourself, what was that moment about,
Yep.
things like that. So
The Red Rocks moment for me. Yeah. Stuff
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
so but I wanted to change it up because of the theme of tonight's show. What's one or some of your favorite cigars that you've smoked on any of your shows? Primetime special edition, Jukebox, even Roundtable.
Yeah.
It's a deep roster, I understand.
Wait. It's a deep roster. I'm not gonna count this Perdomo 30th because I just smoked them, but they would be on there because they were these are the first time like Thursday night, like again last show I smoked it was memorable because I smoked the first Perdomo 30th I ever had, which was the sun grown. So that was a first moment there. Um I know it was very, very key on Roundtable when we smoked the Alec Bradley Fine and Rare. Because Ben and I was so high on that cigar. I mean, Ben didn't do a list, but he felt that was the best cigar from last year. I felt it was the best cigar from last year. You guys seemed to come into the fold with that one, so that was a very, very special moment. As far as that goes, that's one that I would say, you know, is one for the archives for sure. Um, Boy, you're asking me to pick like my favorite children here.
Yeah, I know, man. It's a tough,
Um,
like I said, it's a tall order.
you
Tall
know,
order.
I'll go back. Some good ones here. I'm zoning out a bit on this one, but I can tell you. Um, I'll go back again. Episode 1, we obviously smoked the number 1 cigar of the year, which was the Crux de Connoisseur. Number 2, so that I got to put that one on there as well. Um, Manuel and Noah. I smoked my all-time favorite cigar, the La Llorona Cien Años Maduro, cigar of the decade. To have it smoke it with the guy who created that cigar, which is, it's my favorite cigar, Desert Island cigar of all time. And how can I forget this one? The Monte Cristo 1935. We smoked that one with Rafael Nadal.
Mm-hmm.
We were going in blind smoking that, but we were like one of the first people to really get to try that cigar. And it was so good, right? It was so
Yeah,
good,
so fucking
and
good.
Rafael was a nervous wreck with that one. So that's another one that I would definitely put on that list for sure. Because it was, like I said, it was one of those very special moments that I definitely, you definitely don't want to forget that one either. So I would put that one on there. More recently, when more recently would have guessed. Oh, he smoked something with Omar once. What did we smoke with Omar? Something really good we smoked with Omar. I just don't remember what the cigar was now.
Certainly not the one that where you were sick.
No, that one wouldn't count either, because that was that just
I don't even
wasn't.
know if you smoked that night, to be honest. I can't remember.
I think I did smoke that night. No, I didn't smoke that night. I stopped smoking at that point. For sure. So, I think Rafael Nadal, Manuel Noah, were the two big ones. Yeah, I would say those are the ones. That's my list there. That would probably be my list. What other good ones? The recent football cigar with John Carney was really good.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that cigar. I thought that was a tremendous cigar that we did. I know there's one other that will come to mind. Justo, I didn't smoke. No, I think I did smoke the Corojo Reserva with Justo on episode 64. Yes, that would probably be the other one I would say. So yeah, those would probably be the people I would say.
Nice.
That was a curveball for sure. Sorry about that. Sorry about
No, the curveball segment's coming up, so that's cool.
Oh yeah,
But
that was.
that was our segment, which is always
One more,
yes,
one
yeah,
more. Robert Holt, when we smoked
Desert Rose.
the Desert Rose. That's another one
Yeah,
that was a really
yeah,
great moment that night, and that's a great cigar. Yeah,
yeah,
that one
absolutely.
has to be on it. Yeah, that's the other one I was thinking of. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yep.
Yeah, man. The really fantastic.
Really was. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Macanudo Flint Knoll. That was a really
Oh,
great. That was
that
a
was. I mean,
fun experience.
I and here. Okay, so that was one. Was a round table. And what happened is, to be honest, like Bear came to us and wanted to, like, we rotate who picks the cigar. So Bear picked this one, right? Now I had smoked another size of it. I was like, do we want to do this one? And then they sent us the Churchill size, and we said, let's do it. We'll be fair about it. And that Churchill was amazing.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if it's pretty high on the Coop list this year. Yeah. So that was earlier this year we did that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, as always, Coop, this was our Asylum moment brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. So light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Speaking of refuge.
Hold it. I got one more. Asylum 7 we smoked.
Yeah.
How can Asylum 7 should be on that list as well with Tom. Yes. We
Yeah.
will love with that cigar. Yes. We smoked Asylum 7 as well with Tom. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead. I didn't mean to go. Yeah.
Oh no, it's all good. So yeah, no, speaking
Yeah.
of asylum moments, you had a beautiful asylum moment yesterday, posting that review for the 90.
Yeah. Yeah. Then normally a review cycle doesn't go out that quick. But like I said, this was a one smoke. It was only one smoke that was done. A lot of the background info was already written. So I got that review out today.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I don't smoke a cigar, and the review doesn't usually go out the next day. It goes out a few weeks later. But for scheduling reasons, I put it out today.
Yep.
Because I had most of it written and the proofreading, and my wife does the proofreading. We were going out today, so that's why it worked with that.
Great.
Yep.
All right. Well, last topic and then last question, Coop, which is
Okay.
Los Fumar takes.
Yep.
So a couple of categories I picked for myself. The longest show that we did. Everyone always makes fun of the length of these shows, right? So longest show that I ever did was 4 hours, 9 minutes, and 21 seconds.
Right.
Which pales in comparison to the 24-hour show by Meet Your Professor, by the way. And I think it was the 14-hour show that Aaron had did during.
Yeah, Pete did one that was like almost like that broke the Aaron record, I think.
Yeah.
And then Meet the Professor broke Pete's record.
Yep.
Pete went like 15 hours one day with his. Pete Johnson.
Yeah. So, but this was take 157. It was a pairing show with Trip Waldrop and Dennis Fang. Had them on for a couple of these. But this was by far our longest show. But there's actually a Cigar Coop twist to this. Coop, you have a specific memory from this take that I thought was really funny for those who haven't heard the story.
This was the summer of 2020, this show, right?
Correct.
Okay, so yes, I had a take on this. So Bear show's on late, right? A lot of times. Some weeks I tune in live. Some weeks I don't. Okay, and I watch the replay. I happen to have to get up very early the next morning to take my son Peter to go get a U-Haul truck, and we were we had to go get this thing like really early, load up this, get him up to Boone, and then I had to take the truck back because I had some other thing doing. So we were on a very early schedule. So long story short, before that, I could fall asleep, right? So I just I started tuning into the show at 10:30. Bear starts the show at 10:30. Trip and Dennis are on. I think I watched about 45 minutes. I go to sleep, right? I get up, okay, and it's 3 a.m. I get up, and I actually still have the computer just going in the studio, the garage, right? So the computer's still on. I come into the garage because I realized I didn't turn it. I just want to put it away, and these guys are still on the air at 3 a.m.
Yep.
They were still, and I'm like, holy cow! I went for a second, and I'm like, I'm like, maybe the show paused. Maybe it's a replay that's playing. No, they were still going at 3 a.m. They were literally. It was maybe a few minutes before 3. That's what I'll say. But you guys were still going. I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, holy, because you guys did 3 pairings that night.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually smoked 3 cigars on this show. So you think about this. That's a long show. And I come in, I'm like, my God, they're still going at it. And I'm laughing because you remember also Fumar Takes had a very different start. It was meant to be a short 20-minute show.
Yes.
That's how you started that out, right? It evolved and become something different. But like now he's like at the 4-hour mark. I'm like, holy cow! Like I couldn't believe it. And these guys were still like, everyone was still like going. It was amazing. Trip was in Oregon, so it wasn't quite as bad for him. Like, but you was still 2 a.m. Dennis, it was 3 a.m. too. So yeah, I'll never forget that. And I think when we got I said I took my phone in the car. Like when Peter and I had to go pick up the U-Haul, and I still had this thing on. I still had it on my phone at that point. And by the time we got to the U-Haul place, and that was a whole. We had to go. We had to go get like there was like a lockbox and stuff we had to do. It was crazy to get that thing at that hour because they weren't open either. But I remember that night vividly. A classic moment.
For sure. So, the biggest surprise for you, Coop, what show did I do? Because I know there's been a couple. What show that took you by surprise?
Um, so I'll give you a selfish answer first, right? I think it was the interview that you did with Loomis and I. Okay,
Yeah,
the first one,
99, man.
and we got to tell the 99, right? And we told the whole story of leaving where we were and coming to where we were. And we had never documented that story before to the detail like that we did. So we talked about how we each left our previous shows or our previous brands and got to that point. And we went through the whole history of that. So that was a very, very surprising show because afterwards I realized I had this documented as good as it was. And it was something permanent, like I can always go back to and really, kind of take it in that the story was told. It's kind of like, and it's preserved out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of an interesting because when I go back and watch that show sometimes to get my facts even straight, to make sure I had all my sides. So I think that one for sure. As far as guests, the 2 Alan Rubin interviews you did. You did 2 interviews with him. The first one and that second one.
Yeah, take
and
148.
Interviews.
Yeah, take 148 and take 237. Yeah.
Because again, I always say that Bear brings in the human side of the cigar industry. And that 148 one was gold. I mean, it was just like, wow. I mean, this was like, we had, you and I had already interviewed. I don't know if we had interviewed, I know Aaron and I had interviewed Alan already. But again, it was gold. Because now Alan had done a few of these interviews, and Bear brings out this whole other side of him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say the time you had Matt Booth on because you got Matt Booth to have a serious discussion.
A serious
the
conversation.
First time he came on.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the second Alan Rubin interview was different.
Yeah, take 249. Or take 237. Yeah.
Can I tell it?
Absolutely.
Can I tell? Okay. So the story of this goes, I give Alec Bradley Fine and Rare #1 cigar of the year. I get a phone call that afternoon, or it was the next day, I forget what it was. And I basically said, they told me, you're going to be the first one to give a #1 cigar to you, and the company's going to get sold. Now, I know you said it was Dissident, right? But Dissident going a few weeks before you gave it, was the difference.
Correct.
Okay, but technically, you want to say Dissident was the other one, right? Where you were going to give it. It was just more of a timing thing. And I get this thing saying, well, it's gonna be the company now, very reliable source. Okay, so I go to Bear, and I'm like, Bear, this is what I'm hearing. Okay, reliable source, right? I don't know if there's truth to it, but Alan's doing your show, but you can't ask him this, right? So do what you want with this, right? But you kind of, what you did, you were brilliant. Bear kind of gave Alan every opportunity to say to try to get him, back into that. And Alan played poker like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Good interview, really good interview. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't a knock, but and I came at it. I'm like, he ain't selling this company, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, he came at it from a very angle that he was talking about. He was very much. I mean, he was in the mindset, and like when you talk about the comparison of the two episodes, right? Take 148.
Right.
We're talking about like his revitalization. We're talking about his newly embraced youth and fervor and thirst for the industry and for his brand and where it was going. And by take 237, it was a little under 100 takes later, but he was very much in the mindset of riding off into the sunset. And at the time, it wasn't about the selling of the company. It was about handing it off to his boys. And so it was very reflective. Right. It was very reflective. And we looked back at where he came from. And
it was.
Yeah. And it was very nostalgic because we talked about like the first account he ever sold, the first time he ever saw his cigars on his shelf. And through discussion and discourse, we got back. It was a really beautiful moment because I got him back to that moment. And
yes,
it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Now, take 148. This actually asked my next question was most impactful shows. and these two certainly fall in it.
Yeah. Now, before, yeah. No, I got to add another thing. I was selfish with that second one because Alan told the whole story about, like, you asked him about me giving him number one. And he told the whole story about that, how I was in the office and everything.
Yeah,
100% accurate, by the way, what he said,
right.
everything he said. So I was kind of selfish with that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the most impactful takes, these two rank up there for me. Take 148 was very special to me. I still say it's one of my best interviews I've ever done.
It was a
Because
great interview. Yeah.
it was the interview that I always thought that he should have given. And that's how I characterized it. There were so many questions in his history, his journey, that I felt were never asked and never answered.
Yeah.
Par-
Yeah. They
partic-
were really good questions.
yeah, particularly around Prince Otto, right? So Prince Otto was very important story to the Alec Bradley legacy and the Alec Bradley brand, right?
Yeah.
And there was the whole thing about getting number one and then leaning into production a little too, with a little too much zeal, let's just call it.
Yep.
And there were mistakes made. Alan admitted those mistakes. This guy doesn't just fall on the sword. I mean, he completely
Yeah.
impales himself with it. He demands,
We
he flies up to New York, walks into
to go.
Savona's office, and demands an interview so that he can explain
Yep.
the blessing and the curse of the number one cigar and the mistakes that he made, and owned it.
And they gave him that, and Aficionado gave him the interview and to be fair with that. Yeah.
Exactly. And the questions that I thought were unanswered was like, you know, I've always been fond of Alan, and I've always been fond of the brand. And yes, I'm very well aware of the sign behind me. Yeah, this is the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studios, but
I don't think that you had Alec Bradley on Star
I
Studios.
didn't. No, I
Yeah.
didn't. But
Then when you did the first one, yeah. The second one you did, yeah.
The second one I did, yes. The first one was very much like questions that I wanted to ask about because it was very apparent to me. Like, again, Alec Bradley is named after his sons. Alec and Bradley. They're named after his sons.
Yep.
So the question I always wanted to ask is, how much of the self-impalement, if you will, why was it important to him, but why was it important for his family?
Yes.
And how did his family feel?
This is the human side of the cigar industry that Bear brings to the table. That like doesn't come out in interviews that I do or other people do. But this is where you got to go back and watch that show if you haven't watched it, or both those shows especially. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. You hit the human side like I never saw you hit the human side before with that interview. And Alan was great. This was great. And I remember both you and I talked the next day, and you're like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Man, this was one of the greatest interviews I ever heard. It was unbelievable."
Yeah, I really liked that. There were some more moments. You mentioned Matt Booth. I love talking to Matt. Both
You got a conversation with Matt, which was
yeah, and it's both like I love talking to the man personally, like off camera. And I also love talking to him in a show format too, because like to your point, I'm always able to I'm able to rein him in, because I think it's important for Matt to be Matt, and I let him be him. I don't
right.
try to contain the beast, so to speak. But
yeah,
but Matt is probably one of the most prolific and interesting figures in this industry. And when that word gets tossed around a lot, interesting, but he's incredibly fascinating because his approach to cigar making and to being a brand owner in this community is really different. And I don't want to use the U word.
Yeah.
Because he is a unique personality, but his approach is very different. And he approaches it very different. He looks at it differently, and he sees the world through a lens that nobody in this industry does. Nobody looks at cigars the way he does.
Nope. Yeah.
And I think it's important. The reason why I love having Matt on, and the reason why I challenge myself to have discussions with him, because again, I think it's important to cast a microscope on that, because I think it's very powerful. The other one too is, and I think it's the best example that I've ever seen of what we know as a personality, or what we see, or what we hear, and who a person really is. And that was Juan Cancel's last appearance.
The
Not
Juan
the
Cancel solo one, yes.
Yeah, the
But it was
last
a
solo
solo,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the last solo one. So the last interview I had with him was with Kevin for their anniversary. But the last solo one interview, because I did another one previously, um, got him to talk about 9/11.
Yeah, and it was like, again, you saw a side of Juan you never saw in an interview.
Yeah, and
Yep,
I think that's
I
important.
remember it.
I think that's important to understand that these people are
And
people.
Juan was, yeah, Juan was grateful for that. He was like, "Wow, you're giving me this opportunity to talk
Yeah,
about this here."
yeah.
So he was really, yeah, yeah,
And I think what I love about these conversations week in and week out, Coop, is that, like, it's again, it's very important to me to understand and let people be people. And because again, everyone sees Juan for the crazy and the eccentric, and Matt certainly falls into this category too. Like, they're very zany people, and they're incredible personalities, and they're infectious, you know.
right.
They're very infectious, and they're very magnetic personalities. And it's important, I think, to showcase that, but I think it's also important to put a microscope again on who they are as people. And that probably leads me into the next one, which is James Brown, take 128, my first interview with him, and take 249, which was my second interview with him. And those were an
Which I
important
watched down at
series.
the media compound.
Right, right. I
Yeah,
remember. It's an important series of discussion. So the first one, take 128, is a very methodical journey through his life, which is incredibly fascinating. It's one of my favorite works. It's the show that I've told my sister to watch, who has no interest in cigars. It's the show that
right.
I've pointed to many people who have no interest in cigars, but I'm like, dude, you got to hear this guy talk. Like, you have to hear this guy's story. And I mean, this is a guy who, is a sommelier. He is a guy who went on his honeymoon with his wife Angela and decided that, yeah, they wanted to live this life a lot differently and a lot less traditionally than most people,
Most
98% of the
people.
world,
Yep.
do. And they wanted to travel, and they wanted to go on adventures together. And they drove from England. Their goal was to get to the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. They made it as far
Yeah,
as
I've
Ghana.
heard the story.
They bought a resort, and they lived in Ghana. Their son was born in Ghana. He would make dinner for his guests, and he would swim, Coop. He would fucking swim out to the fishermen's boats to get the catch of the day. Like, who the fuck does that, man? Like, these are I mean, there's so many incredible personalities in this industry, but I think, and these are extraordinary stories. Yes. I mean, how many
Yep.
James Browns are there? Not many.
Yeah.
But my point is and why I love these conversations so much, is that everybody has their story. And
Yeah.
and while the story is important, I really want to understand the story behind the story. And I think that's why
You,
some of these are more impactful than others.
that second interview, going back to the Emilio thing, okay? He told the vision of Emilio probably really good in that interview. I had not heard it told like that before. What he had to do, what he told a very good, that whole project he took on and what he was trying to do with that really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the second one was interesting too. Is we've talked about it. It's been well documented, probably exhaustingly so. Just like how James is very quiet. He's not very chatty, and I'm like,
No, it's
you don't.
fake
You,
news.
yeah, yeah. I completely
Ask the questions that need to be asked. He's going to
yeah.
tell you.
Ask the right
Yeah,
questions. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean,
Ask the right questions.
I love James, and I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely a brilliant person. I think he's brilliant in business. I think
Oh,
he's brilliant in
I've
cigars.
said
I
it.
think he's
This is
incredibly
a guy.
creative.
When we get to 2033, I'm telling you, we're gonna be talking to James Brown as one of the. He's gonna be at a legendary status. He is gonna be considered a true master blender. Like he is gonna be in that category.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it.
1,000%.
I have an impactful show. Yeah, I have an impactful show for you. You didn't. I don't know if you're gonna mention any more, but I have one. When you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bear has, and I don't know if you're doing it this year, but Bear, I believe, earlier this year changed the game for how to reveal a cigar of the year list. In that he enlisted another person to do the show with him and got them the cigars that were on his list. And the person we're talking about is George Brightman. And George Brightman basically ran counterpoint on that show with Bear that night. No one had ever done that before. No one had ever done that before. And I hope you do it every year.
Yeah,
If George does
I'm
it,
working with George. Yeah, I'm working with George to do it again. That's the goal.
okay, yeah. I mean, because I said, Bear, if you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna grab George to do it, right? But no, it was without a doubt, it was impactful. I believe it changed the game for how you reveal a list. I do. I think it completely was innovative. It came across great, and to have a guy like George who was very honest in that interview.
Yeah.
There were a couple he didn't like. There was one I
Yes.
know he didn't like that you liked. So very honest with that. So I thought it was a great. Like I said, I thought it was a great concept, and I think it was very impactful. And I think we're going to see this for years to come. How impactful! I'm surprised no one copied you already on this. So,
Well, it's early. It's early.
maybe they did it. Yeah, it's early. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's also a lot of work. It's also a
yes.
lot of work to do that. So,
Yeah, and they were blind. I send them everything
hats off
blind.
to you. And you
Yeah.
sent him everything blind. Yeah, so he sent him blind. That was the other thing. So George didn't really know what he was smoking, other than he had these blinds. So George smoked through 10 cigars prior to the show.
No, not all 10. He did some on the show. He did a
So
couple on the show. And there was one he actually didn't get to
he did a
until
couple on the show.
afterwards.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
But he did a lot. He did a
Yeah,
lot of prep
but that
work.
was still pretty good. Yeah, he did a lot. He did a lot. Yep, he did a lot. Yep, yep. So he had a lot of background info too, so which was really good.
His favorite was actually
Yeah,
my
so that was
number
a
two
good.
cigar. My number 2 cigar was his favorite. And least
The
expensive on the
Buffalo
list. I
10.
want to point. Yeah, the Buffalo 10 Connecticut was his favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the least expensive. Want to point that out.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was a great. Yeah, I think it was very impactful, that show. So
Yeah.
it really changed a lot of how people deliver these lists, and it was something different. And you were doing it solo and running a song, and Dan did a very good job with it. Don't get me wrong, but now you had this other, you had this guy running counterpoint with this, which was I thought great.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was an incredible,
Yeah,
incredible time. It was so
yeah,
much fun. George. Oh God,
yeah.
I love that man.
Right.
No, and
Yeah,
he even said self-admittedly it was an exploration for him because he even self-admitted to it changed his impression of a couple of brands that maybe he hadn't looked too
yes,
favorably in
it
recent
did.
years. And that was the most surprising to me that he admitted, right? Like I was fully prepared for him to say, Bear, your number 1 choice sucks, right? Which he didn't say. He actually liked my number
Right.
1 cigar. He just liked my number 2 better. Um, so like,
Better. Yes.
yeah. And that was probably the most surprising and most impactful thing was like he left
Yeah.
he left with new opinions and thoughts, which was
Yep.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was. It was really a very honest assessment, and you got that when you listen to that show, you'll pick all that up. So without a doubt, the best cigar of the year show ever done. So yeah, without a doubt, change the game.
Change the game.
Change the game. Yep.
Well, Coop, time has come. It's the curveball segment.
Curveball.
Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust curveball segment. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park. Count them up. Count them up. 8 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend Steve Sock. Can he make it number 9? Coop, you and I both say yes. He will be in the consensus top.
It's done. It will be me, Creator Black. Yeah.
Papa Sock, man.
And the question is, well, yeah, but I think Papa Soccer and Soccer Khan will be combined according to how Charlie does it, because he does it by line. So he's gonna get a lot of. That's what I'm saying. I think it's the favorite to win number 1, but he will make 9. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yep.
All right, Coop. Here it is. Coop, a lot of our audience doesn't know this, but for years you were a very passionate member of the cycling community. You biked. You were a cyclist.
I biked, yes.
Yes. And
I biked. I got away from it by the time I was in my 30s, but yeah.
You're very passionate about. You're still very passionate about the sport.
Yeah.
And
yep.
So my question is this, Coop: if you had kept cycling, obviously it wouldn't be called Cigar Coop. But would Cigar Coop be a cycling website?
I thought about it. I was thinking about boxing and cycling with it too. I did think about it. Yes, there's a very good possibility that would have happened. I felt like, because there's a lot I could have brought to the American audience on cycling. I think I would have focused it more on the grand tours, the big tours. But yeah, I would say that would have been a very realistic possibility. Actually, when blogs were coming up, right? When the blogs started, it was really, I got into it at going to IPCPR in 2010. For almost every year I've missed the Tour de France since then, with the exception, every year, because it's concurrent with the IPCPR. And I think that actually got me away from it, is what happened.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's what happened with that. But yeah, I maybe it still happens down the road, but I don't know. Well, I mean, it could be something that still happens. I'm not planning it, but could happen.
Well, here's an interesting question for you, Coop, and something I've wanted to ask you for years.
The photos are the challenging piece. Getting photos would be the tough piece, because most of it's in Europe, and I'd have to get photos. Yeah.
Well, here's a question for you, and this is something I've wanted to ask you for years. Coop, you've for over a decade now, you've represented excellence in cigar journalism, and you've built up an outstanding, unparalleled reputation of one of integrity and trustworthiness when it comes to news reviews. There aren't many people in this industry that don't like you, and that goes. I mean,
there are a few. There are a few.
Sure, but that goes without saying, considering the fact how sensitive this industry tends to be when you're being critical of their work, right?
There's probably 3 people who don't like me right now. Yeah.
But this is a much deeper question, which makes it the curveball segment.
Okay.
How happy are you with the body of work that you've done?
I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied right now, if that makes sense. And there are things that...
Please explain.
There's what I'm beginning to discover. I think review-wise, I'm very happy with what we've done. I think podcast content-wise, I'm very happy with what we've done. News-wise, I think I'm going through some changes with how we're covering the news right now. And what I'm really discovering is there were things that I'm covering that really weren't worthy of being covered. And that's why I'm not satisfied that I feel there's things I'd much rather cover, and I don't get the opportunity to cover it because I'm embargoed by a competitor, and it's not Half Wheel. Half Wheel's never embargoed me, so that hurts because Bear. I sit there some days, right, and I get like store exclusive stuff or just stuff that just is like, why am I I've had my issues with the TAA was incredibly frustrating there because we did everything possible to cover them and they still wouldn't pay attention to us. They still weren't giving us the information. And I gotta be honest, I felt very hurt with that. I'm like, why am I doing, like I said, and how does this take stock? Why am I doing this? Why am I pulling on these ropes anymore? So the news piece, I'm not getting out of news is the answer, but I am changing the way news is being covered right now. It's going to be much, much different than in the past. These things like store exclusive, which I'm sorry that they're not that they're bad releases. They're not good news releases. TAA, I'm just seeing I get no cooperation and I get no readership. So I'm moving away from some of these things and trying to focus more on national releases. And if it's going to go to a competitor first, guess what? I may just have to take the approach. Hey, print the article and hey, go reference so and so who has the article already. I mean, I just may have to do that because I'm not satisfied with sitting there getting a press release on a 50 box release or I'm sorry, again, I go back to the Mike Palmer thing, and I don't mean to, but I've gotten a lot worse press. That's not a terrible press release. I've gotten some really ridiculous ones on this. So I'm not satisfied with that. The news piece, I feel like we've done everything news-wise. Honestly, we've given integrity, right? We've given accuracy. But yet we're told by everyone, thank you for doing what you do. You're great, right? But yet you're not good enough to get this story timely with everybody else. That's the part. That's the part that's incredibly not making me happy right now. But instead, you'll throw me a scrap of a store exclusive because no one else will cover that. You know what I mean?
But wouldn't you say
so that's the problem?
But wouldn't you say that's why your brand has strengthened over the years, though? Because I mean, you for as long as I've known you, right, and as long as I've worked with you, we're talking about 6 years. So I mean, we're on the second half of our of a half of decade, right?
Right.
And I've been with you for this time, and I've seen you agonize over these decisions, and I've seen you make some of these painful decisions. But I think that, don't you think that that's improved the brand and improved your coverage?
Yeah, it definitely is strength. Oh, it's definitely strengthened us a lot, right? To a degree, it really has strengthened us. So cutting the stuff we're cutting out is weaker stuff, but we need to be like the part that's frustrating is the stronger stuff. We're still competing with people who are embargoing us for the story. So that's where the frustration comes in. But yeah,
that's fine. Yeah,
that's
fine.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the thing. Look, we are not cutting and pasting your press releases either. Which look, you're doing things like SEO and all that. You can't do that. Like, everyone just you want to cut and like I see people there. Like, so a press release, here's the thing, and people think, oh, it's all about press releases, but press releases can also be a very bad thing because press releases are written with such a spin, right? That, and I see people cut and paste and put that spin in there, and it's almost like their words it's someone else's words that are coming across as their words, right? And I've had this conversation with a few people. I know Jay Davis and I have had this conversation. So it is very, very, like, I'll just name an example. Like some of the El Septimo press releases, we just can't cover those because they're just not our words, So we have to I try to kind of make it very neutral and agnostic is what I need to do. I can't say I can't say you're the fastest growing cigar company if you don't have something to show me the fastest growing cigar company. You know what I mean? It's like so we've really tried to be very, very objective. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. Most of our our news, more and more of our news is coming from retailers now. Like retailers are some of my best information to get stories.
Right.
And it's just, if and it's rattled some feathers because like a story gets out before it's the press release or the announcement. Well, you once you give it to the retailer, guess what? It's public information unless they've signed an NDA with you. So,
So to
and we won't use an unauthorized photo. Yeah,
to dive into this though, real quick, like
right.
playing devil's advocate. Okay, you've cut some
Yeah.
things. You're planning on cutting more.
Hmm.
I
But
would
we're
vent.
adding. We're going to strengthen it though too. And
Yes,
yeah,
no, and I understand that, and I know that things are getting added. So there's a constant tweaking in this evolution of what
yeah,
Cigar Coop
yeah,
is, and I understand that. And I think like
yeah.
to the point is it's doing it to strengthen the brand. If all things are created equal, right? You had the
Hmm.
time, you had the wherewithal, you had the information.
Right.
Do you think Cigar Coop would be a stronger news website if you had the time and the cycles to be able to print this?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need another person to do news with me too. Absolutely. So I think with limited resources, and you've helped me out from time to time, as well as some of the other guys on the team. You've helped me out pulling some stuff in, and I'm able to massage it. So yes, yeah, I do think so. I do think so. And to answer the question, I am happy, but like I said, I'm not satisfied. If that makes sense, it's just
Yeah.
there's things that are still frustrating me out there.
Yeah, no, I think those are two things. Like, and
Yeah,
that's,
yeah. I think that's it. If
but
I wasn't happy, I just quit and not do it. Right.
yeah, and I think if you were satisfied
But
too,
yeah,
I think that would
yeah,
also make your vision of
yeah,
Cigar Coop a lot different.
yeah,
There's a,
yeah. I mean,
this is not the future of Cigar Coop. Cigar Coop's
right,
future
right.
hasn't been dictated yet.
No, no. I mean, it definitely has not. So it hasn't, for sure. And we've had conversations with manufacturers, and some have been very, very helpful. I mean, one at PCA we had this past summer. It was a great conversation, but we didn't kind of we took a very. I think you and I had a conversation with this manufacturer. We took a very professional approach with it. Is how we did it. We explained the issues and stuff. I've explained to a couple of other manufacturers, and they're like, their hands are tied. Basically, that's what they said. Some won't do it. But they still work with us very well. Don't get me wrong. So, um, then there's other manufacturers that want me to write their marketing material, and I'm not going to do that. So, they get pissed at me, but I'm not going to write their marketing material.
Mhm.
So I don't play that game. I can't play that game. Why would I do that? The other thing, Barry, there's things you don't see. Like, for example, someone will give me an exclusive, and then they want to use what I write to send it out to the other media guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, I know these guys are my friends, but they can't have my words.
Yeah.
So that's the other that's been a very contentious thing with a lot of the smaller brands in particular.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we've had to say no, and then we just say, hey, if you want to go with someone else and they're willing to share that with us, then go do that. Because we don't copy and paste stuff. But see, the problem is that there's guys who copy and paste, and I know Aaron does it, but Aaron's not really a news site. He'll tell you that. He just kind of does it as a courtesy.
Yeah,
So but yeah, so yeah, yeah. No, but I do agree with you on that.
for sure. Well, fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve
Yep,
Sock has been knocking
yep.
them out of the park. 8 consecutive, soon to be 9, according to Coop and I, years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend Steve Sock. That was our Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust curveball segment, and this was
Nice. Yeah.
our 272nd take. Coop, 835.
835. So we
835.
have 165 to go. So I think we're about 2 years away from that.
Yeah.
I think we're about 2, 3, probably 2025 is when we'll hit it. Late 2025.
Yeah.
So we'll have a big 1,000 coalition party.
Fuck yeah. Let's
for
do
sure.
it. Man, it's
Yeah.
been Coop, it's been so fantastic talking with you as always. This is a really interesting exercise.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, there's so much I know we could have covered too. We went 3 hours, but I think we could have gone 8 or 9 with this so easily. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of hard to sum up 6 years of collaborative work in just a few short minutes. So,
Yep.
But listen, everybody, thank you so much for our audience for staying late with us as always. Check out our YouTube channel, which is Fumar. Don't forget to hit the handy dandy subscribe button. If you are tuning into us later on podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you hit the download, subscribe, and review button. If you already are a subscriber, hey, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe. That helps my numbers. That's why Coop only comes back on, because my numbers improve. If I start going downhill, he'd say no, because he's a snob.
No,
just kidding. That's not true at all. But yes, it does help my numbers. So if you are a subscriber,
soccer numbers tonight. I probably didn't keep soccer numbers tonight, but okay.
If you are a subscriber, please unsubscribe, but don't forget to resubscribe. Like I said, that really helps my numbers and everything. But as always, every Sunday night, you can find us here at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, broadcasting live from our Facebook page, Hello Fumar. If you're there, go ahead and hit the like button as well. Hit the follow too. You'll get all the updates of upcoming guests as well as other opportunities as well. And of course, when we go live and broadcast our show every Sunday night, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. This was our 272nd take. Yeah, done 272 of these. Holy shit. 273 coming up next week. Guess who's on the show? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's Mr. Steve Saka. He will be on my show next week. So excited to have Steve back. He missed the birthday show this year.
Went late.
Yeah, he thought the birthday show.
If you thought this show went late.
Yeah, we got.
I have to take the following Monday off again.
Good times, good times. Well, everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We do appreciate it. For everyone out there, like I said, appreciate you. Appreciate the likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. I'm Bear Duplessis. He's Will Cooper, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. Guess what? This was our 272nd take. We'll see you